An entitled Karen demanded that I admit fault in a minor car crash that she quite literally caused, as she tried every tactic under the sun to get me to confess to something that I definitely didn't do, resulting in probably one of the most expensive insurance bills she's ever experienced in her life. But if I'm being completely honest, I don't care for a second because I didn't do anything wrong and she absolutely was at fault. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, I'm based in the United Kingdom, so we drive in the left lane, which will hopefully make some sense when I explain what happened. So I was driving along in a small country town about 20 miles per hour one morning, coming towards a left bend where a minor road also joins from the right. As I start to steer into the bend, a car comes shooting out of the minor road and crunches nose first into my driver's side. I look up a bit baffled and I see a woman in her 70s staring at me over the steering wheel and her crumpled bonnet. My first thought was that she had some kind of medical emergency or something like that. So I butt scooted out of the passenger door and dashed around to ask if she was okay. Well, my sympathy vanished quickly though as she got out and came charging towards me, shouting, "Well, that was a stupid thing to do, you silly idiot. You were driving right into my path and not even looking at me." She then got really personal, calling me a scruffy idler. Despite this, I invited her to come sit at the side of the road for a minute in case she had a head injury or she was in shock or something like that. By now, a small crowd had gathered and she started inviting them to join her in berating me. Thankfully, one woman said, "I'm sorry, but I saw the whole thing. The original poster had right of way and had no reason to expect you to drive into her." I took the witnesses' numbers, I took some pictures, and then I started enlisting help to push our cars into a nearby car park as traffic was slowly starting to build up. Now, I think at this point she realized the odds were not in her favor and softened enough to give me her details like it was some kind of huge favor, which where I'm from, it's a legal requirement at the scene of an accident around here. She then actually suggested that she would drop the case against me if I paid for her damages without resorting to her lawyer. I said, well, let's see how much our repairs cost and we'll figure out next steps from there. Now, she did not like that at all and called me a silly girl again. I waited nearby while her recovery arrived and then headed off to my garage. I was only 5 miles from my house. On the way home, I thought to myself, we all make mistakes and get angry to cover them. Maybe she's a carer or something like that and it just makes her cranky, but she very clearly needs her car. So I settled to wait and see what the repairs would cost before reporting to insurance. Well, my quote came to over $1,000. So I sent her a text message to say that was way too much money for me to pay on trust, and I'd be reporting the incident to the insurers along with the photos and witness details. The lady then sent me the sweetest few text messages. You'd think I'd just given her a grandchild, thanking me for my help, as well as asking if I would like to come to a national trust place for lunch where we could get to know one another better and work out the best course of action for everybody. Well, after seeing that, I blocked her and I reported her to my insurance. 2 weeks later, my local garage had my car good as new, and she was probably facing the insurance bill of her life. Now, I think she was probably a retired head teacher or something like that, and it was really fun to see her deploy all of her strategies from telling me off to schmoozing me up just to get me to comply with her version of reality. But thankfully, things worked out for me because honestly, I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, that's super annoying, dude. This lady pulls out in front of you and she's trying to be like, wow, we need to come to the best solution for everybody. But it's bro, the only solution here is that you pay for my car. What are you talking about? I am not responsible for this accident. You pulled out into the road and hit me, not the other way around. So yeah, I love the way you handle this. And honestly, this lady was acting incredibly entitled. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for calling a tow truck on a car parked in my spot after this guy literally said he refused to move his car, even though he didn't pay for that spot like we did? Because after it was all said and done, my husband is essentially saying that I took things way too far and that I'm adding unnecessary conflict in a neighborhood that we've been peacefully living in for 4 years. Because right now, I hate to say it, but I really am second guessing myself. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm a 27-year-old female and I moved to a townhouse-style apartment complex with my husband back in 2022. Our apartment complex offers gated parking with assigned spots for $25. If you're parked in the gated area without an assigned spot or a tag stating that you pay to park in the gated area, then guess what? Your car gets towed. There are multiple signs in the entrance stating this. We decided to pay for 2 spots to be closer to our apartment and to make it easier for when I have my son with me. Well, recently the complex started doing some construction work and the apartment manager sent out an email stating that certain parking spots will be reassigned temporarily to allow the workers easier access. In this email, it specifically states to see her in the office to get a new temporary spot and not to park in spots that we're not assigned to. And for reference, our spot was not reassigned. Well, a few nights ago, my husband and I were out and about, and when we came home late, we found someone parked in my spot. Now, we didn't know who the car belonged to, so we could even try to politely ask them to move. So I just moved close to my neighbor's spot and hoped that the tow truck didn't make his routine drive-by that night, which thankfully for this night he didn't. The next day, I got a message from neighbors saying that they saw a man parking in my spot and told him that he was parking in someone's assigned spot. And apparently he responded by saying, "I'm not moving my car." Well, last night, my neighbor messaged me that the same man parked in my spot again. And at this point, I was a little frustrated. So I came home and I got the number for the tow truck. I called and I made a complaint that someone was in my spot. I gave them the number of my spot along with the description of the car itself. My neighbor and I then sat outside by our doors waiting for the tow truck just to make sure that they took the right car. Now, this part, I have to admit, is a little bit petty. When the tow truck arrived and started grabbing the car, my neighbor and I were clapping and laughing. It's not like the man didn't already know it was a possibility because my neighbors did warn him. The apartment manager did send out notices about this. Also, if I had let it go, I would be the one at risk of getting towed as well, which I literally cannot afford at the moment. I sent my husband pictures of the car getting towed, and he had a few words for me when he got home from work. He felt that I should not have called the tow truck. He feels that I'm starting unneeded confrontation. We've lived here peacefully for 4 years, and now I'm starting problems with people. He thinks the guy's gonna retaliate against me. He said he didn't feel like a parking spot is worth the risk I'm putting myself in. But I told him I wouldn't have done it if we didn't pay for assigned spots. And I also wouldn't have done it if my car wasn't at risk of being towed for being in the wrong spot. But honestly, the more I think about it, I'm wondering if my husband's right. Was I the jerk for getting this guy's car towed? Because right now I'm not sure anymore. I'm gonna say this right off the bat. No, you're not the jerk. This guy deserved it. Holy crap, are you serious right now? This guy not only knew that he couldn't park there, but when someone confronted him about it, he's like, "Oh, I'm not moving my car." And that is the most obnoxious thing on planet Earth. Like for me, that would be like, okay, your fate is sealed. I'm absolutely gonna tow your car now. Because guess what? I pay for these spots. I pay to have that spot, so that means I get to park there. Otherwise, what's the point of paying for it? Like, dude, you can't just take that spot from me and expect me to be okay with it. Not to mention taking it willingly and just ignoring anything that anyone would say about it. So no, you're not the jerk. This guy had it coming. Yeah, you've lived here peacefully for 4 years, but that doesn't mean you roll over and play dead. If someone's disrespecting your property and your space, then congratulations, you get to stand up for yourself. So in that regard, I don't think you did anything wrong, and I think you're completely in the right. Today, my job was a waking nightmare as a server at a restaurant, as I literally had to serve and handle the entire restaurant by myself. Here's what happened. Okay, so recently I had a server's nightmare happen in real life. My coworker who worked brunch as a bartender and was supposed to work the dinner shift as a server was fired between brunch and dinner. I was only supposed to be the bartender, and my buzzer that day was going to come late because of a funeral. The reservation book only had like a 12 top at 5:30, but the book was only for call-ins unless the owner remembered to put in the online bookings, which of course he didn't, and trust me, that will be relevant later. So I'm alone bartending and serving. The table is set for the 12 top, and then at 5 o'clock, I get a 6 top and an 8 top, which by the way, that's not great, but I can handle it. I mean, I did have everything prepped for the 12 top after all. So needless to say, I'm handling things. The tables I have know that I'm the only one here and I'm basically on my own, and they basically say that they're gonna go easy on me. Then the 12 top arrives at 5:15, and I think to myself, great, okay, I'm busy, but I'm seasoned and I can handle this. But then 5:30 hits. I come out from the back running food and I look at the front and it is a madhouse. I drop the food off, I check in with the guests, and now I have 2 more 12 tops, a 16 top, a 9 top, a walk-in of 8, and 2 more 2 tops. Yeah, that's like over 60 more people, and the reservations are all birthdays. We only have 3 big top tables, and those are not set unless we know parties are coming in, which obviously I didn't. So I get the numbers and I then shout to them by saying, "Hi everybody, I'm gonna go as fast as I can, but it's literally just me here, and my coworker was just fired, so please be patient with me." So I'm bartending, I'm serving, I'm running, I'm hosting, I'm doing the waters, I'm setting up big tables. I literally didn't have enough menus to give to all of them. I then call the owner while frantically trying to make waters and setups, and he says he's too busy at his other spot to come right away. And I think to myself, oh my god, great, this is awful. Now bless the kitchen, they didn't know the table numbers, but they were helping get waters and setups. bus and trying to run bread as I'm shouting orders at them. The busser finally arrives from a funeral, and I said to them, "Congratulations, you're a server now. Take a table. In fact, take 3 of them." The owner finally arrives 45 minutes later and called in another bartender and a busser who arrived shortly after that. As I'm watching them walk in, I could hear the Hallelujah chorus. It was literally a walking server nightmare where you are the only person on and the door just keeps opening with more and more people. And I've got to say, this is going to go down as one of the best and the worst shifts I've ever done, because somehow I managed to keep my composure and handle it with some semblance of grace. Okay, as someone who's been in the serving industry and like the restaurant business before, holy crap. That is a lot of people all at once. I don't care who you are. What you just described sent like chills down my spine. That is so much work for one person. And the fact that you had no backup at all, like literally nobody to help you, that is crazy. Dude, I would not be able to handle that. So good for you for surviving the night, because this probably would have broken any normal server out there. Because holy crap, these were some very extraordinary circumstances. An entitled Karen cut in line when I was trying to go on the London Underground. So I got some petty revenge at the next stop as I hindered her progress in a way that really pissed her off. And honestly, it was incredibly satisfying to watch. Here's how it happened. Okay, so yesterday I had just about the most amount of fun it's possible to have on the London Underground. I was traveling for work with a suitcase and a laptop bag, so I made for the wider gate entering the tube. There were a couple of people ahead of me with similar baggage loads when suddenly, out of nowhere, a girl cut in front of me, which honestly is not really out of the ordinary for London, but then she quickly moved in and tailgated the person in front, you know, without tapping in to pay, that kind of person. But again, I didn't think too much about it because sadly, it's a relatively common occurrence. But I did notice the pretty distinctive turquoise trolley case that she had in tow. I didn't particularly pay attention to where she went as I tapped in myself, and by the time I looked up, she was out of sight in the melee, which is the London Underground. So I did the only reasonable British thing of tutting and grumbling about the brazen theft, increasing everybody's fares under my breath. A few stops later, as I got to my destination, I approached the similar wide barrier to tap out. I then noticed the same girl and her turquoise suitcase as she started matching her pace to mine slightly behind me. Now, knowing what had happened on entry, I knew it was my time to shine. I approached the wider gate exit again, tapping in as she closed the gap to mere millimeters behind. But of course, it was only right for me to stop dead on exiting the gate, just so I can make sure I've got my wallet, my passport, and my ticket from my onward trip. Well, when I did that, the gate slammed shut on her, as she was unable to shove past me and my baggage in time, which meant that she was left half in, half out of the gate, quite obviously having not paid her way, with a tube worker heading her way to help untangle her. And so, having confirmed the contents of my pockets and not wanting to be late for my Eurostar connection, I moved away without seeing if the young lady got her just desserts. But I definitely did learn a few new words as I moved out of earshot. Now, yes, it was stupidly petty, but if I had the chance, I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. Yeah, I love this. This is like so unbelievably obnoxious. Like, bro, just pay the fee to ride the underground. Like, what are we doing? Don't invade my personal space just to get through. Like, go pay your way through like everybody else. So I love the fact that you sabotaged her and said, oh no, you're definitely gonna have to pay, because what she was trying to do, in my opinion, was very rude. An entitled Karen literally leaves a 1-star review at our coffee shop after we refused to replace a drink that her kid dropped over, which honestly was incredibly entitled and very baffling to watch in person, because the way she was acting was incredibly entitled. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been a barista for about 3 years now, and I genuinely love my job. Regulars are great, the morning rush is chaotic but fun, and most people are perfectly nice. But last week, something happened that left me and my coworker just staring at each other in silence for a solid 10 seconds. So it was a Sunday afternoon, not super busy, but really steady. A woman came in with her son who looked maybe about 5 or 6 years old. She ordered a large iced caramel latte, she paid for it, and I handed it to her at the counter. She set it down on the little ledge near the pickup area while she was getting her straw, and her kid immediately grabbed it, fumbled it, and the whole thing went straight onto the floor. Now, this was a total accident. Like, the kid looked genuinely startled. I was also already reaching for paper towels. Then the mom looked at me and said, completely calm, that she needed us to remake the drink at no charge because the ledge design is a hazard for children, and we should really think about our store layout. Well, I explained as nicely as I could that unfortunately, we can't replace drinks that are dropped after handoff. It's just our policy. I even said I was sorry it happened because honestly, it was a bummer for everybody. She then asked to speak to my manager, which is fine, like totally her right. My manager came out, heard the whole thing, and said the exact same thing that I did. The woman then pulled out her phone and said that she was going to leave a 1-star review for creating dangerous conditions for family. And you know what? She did leave the review. She described the ledge as practically a trap. My manager responded to it very professionally and explained our policy. The wildest part is that like 4 other customers witnessed the whole thing, and one guy quietly came up to the counter after she left and said, "I'll pay for whatever she ordered." We didn't let him, but it honestly really made our day because this was such a weird experience. Yeah, if you drop your coffee after handoff, it is absolutely your own fault. And you know what? If you don't want your kid grabbing it, then maybe don't put it right at the ledge. And look, I totally understand the policy. It is there for a reason and you gotta follow it. But if this lady actually had a better attitude and I was working at this coffee shop, I would probably just replace it anyways and not really blink an eye at it. Like, it's not that big of a deal. It was clearly an accident and I completely understand that, like, yeah, things happen. And you didn't do it on purpose, so you're not like scamming the system. So in that respect, I would probably like skate around the rules if I worked there if she was nicer about it. But because she was so rude and was like, "Oh, this is practically a trap. I can't believe that you guys did this to us." Like, my dude, the only reason you're saying, "Oh, this is designed as like a hazard for children," that's because you literally let the kid grab it in the first place. Like, that's nobody's fault except for yours, dude. You should have handled that way better. So honestly, I think you and your manager handled this really well. You were really professional. You did everything right. And it's just unfortunate that the Karen in this story had such a bad attitude. Because if she had just been a little bit nicer, I'm pretty sure all of this could have been resolved. Would I be the jerk if I told off an autistic guy who is constantly coming after my girlfriend? As it really seems like this guy is always trying to kick me out of the picture by insulting me and making it so I'm never around her. Because right now I'm worried about the repercussions of doing this and I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, so my girlfriend and I are both 17 years old and we've had a strange issue that has honestly been plaguing me morally. These past few months, a guy at our school has been consistently bothering and borderline harassing my girlfriend and is becoming a bigger and more annoying issue. He's further on the spectrum and has less social awareness and tends to like push people's boundaries. But I honestly didn't care much for his presence originally, but I can tell he's developed some kind of like crush on my girlfriend as he tends to talk to her and only her. It's gotten to the point where he purposefully shoves himself in between me and my girlfriend and tends to both dismiss and outright insult me whenever I try to talk to her. I don't want to be a jerk or be accused of like being ableist, but it's gotten to the point where I don't even get the chance to speak to her without him interjecting at every sentence to have a one-on-one conversation with her and just completely excluding me, which by the way never works. In fact, yesterday I was speaking with my girlfriend and he just straight up told me that nobody cares what I had to say and just continued talking about random people whom he also really bothers. My girlfriend interjected and quickly told him that she very much cared, and he made fun of us for being together, something that happens a lot. And I'm glad she did because I was already pretty short-tempered that morning and quickly fought the urge to tell him off. I know this isn't really a big deal, but it's genuinely so hard to do anything anymore with my girlfriend, literally just because of him. I just want to know how to approach this situation and end this mess without potentially getting in trouble. He's even made jokes about us becoming a threesome and how he has a crush on someone in a relationship. I know my girlfriend is equally annoyed, but she sees it more as a joke and annoyance more than anything. So would I be the jerk if I told him off for bothering us or for him just straight up being rude to me? Because right now I don't know what to do. Bro, you have every right to tell this guy off. I don't care who he is or what he's got going on. And no, autism is not an excuse for acting like this. He's being incredibly obnoxious and very rude, and that crap absolutely needs to be shut down. Like, you should not be expected to put up with that for a second. That is so unbelievably inappropriate. Like, think about it for a second. He's insulting you. He's trying to get between you and your girlfriend because he clearly has a crush on her. And he's sitting there trying to act like, you shouldn't be here. I like your girlfriend. And it's like, no, inappropriate, absolutely not okay. So you are well within your right to tell this guy to buzz off, and if he doesn't listen, then I would go to like a teacher or even the parents, because in my opinion, this guy's being creepy towards you and your girlfriend, and you definitely do not need to deal with that. My entitled neighbor is constantly bothering me, as she is always knocking on my door trying to get in my business. But this most recent one honestly really put a bad taste in my mouth, because now I honestly don't know what to do about her. Here's what's going on. Okay, it's safe to say that my entitled neighbor is obsessed with me. It seemed like things were calming down because we've had issues in the past, but my god, I couldn't be more wrong. I have a doorbell camera and she wasn't knocking on my door as much, but to me, it seemed like she was running out of steam. Last night, my son and I went to a party at a friend's house. Several children were there and the host offered a sleepover for any kid who wanted to spend the night. Once all the kids were asleep, us adults enjoyed the adult beverages. So I left my son and my car at my friend's house to pick up in the morning, which I did, and then I walked home. And after I got home, I went straight to bed. Well, I was then woken up by the doorbell camera. My neighbor was there. I ignored her, but I watched her on the camera. She said she knew I was home and that if I didn't answer, she would call a wellness check for me because I came home with my son. I then told her through the camera that he was at a slumber party party and I wanted her off my porch. She then asked why he was at a slumber party on a Monday night, and I said, well, it's none of your business, and please get off my porch. She then said she was going to call for the wellness check unless I showed her proof that he was okay. I then walked out the back door and towards her house, and she saw me when I was almost there and came running after me. I then knocked on her door. She then reached her front door right before her husband opened the door and demanded that I leave, which, my God, is incredibly ironic. Her husband answered the door and asked what was going on, and I just straight up told him what his wife did and threatened to do. He then yelled and cursed at her, asking her what was wrong with her and telling her to get in the house. She then told him, you need to lower your voice, saying that the neighbors would hear what's going on. He then said the neighbors already think she's a weirdo because they see her knocking on my door all the time. She then told him to stop and he told her to get in the house. So she went inside and he apologized to me and said that she isn't going to knock on my door anymore. Now, I felt really uncomfortable because of the yelling and the cursing, and I was also just a little bit tipsy. So I said okay and I went back home. Well, so far there's no knocks, but we'll see what happens next because this lady is literally crazy. Okay, I want to say first and foremost that I went through this person's post history and holy crap, yeah, their neighbor's crazy. They literally are always bothering them. They're being so weird, which also kind of makes sense as to why they have a doorbell camera in the first place. Oh my gosh, if I had a neighbor like that, I absolutely would do the same thing. But seriously, who in their right mind would walk up to your house and be like, hey, where's your kid at? Why is your kid at a slumber party on a Monday night? That's weird. I need proof, otherwise I'm gonna call the cops. It's like, dude, leave me alone. What are you doing? My kid's status and my status of my life is none of your business. Coming up to my door and demanding information like that is creepy and very weird. So no, I'm not gonna give you any info. So yeah, I think you handled this correctly, but personally, I would call the cops every single time this lady comes over there because this behavior is weird and it deserves to be punished. My childhood best friends are treating me entirely different after my business took off and has become successful. Because right now I feel like everybody's turned against me and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, lately I've been going through some purges in my life. My two childhood best friends started changing the way they treat me when their business started taking off. And oh, not just them, even their families who used to be so nice to me when I was nothing started being different. All three of us were so close as kids. We shared dreams and ambitions because we all came from poor families. With me being the poorest because we live in the slums. There are days actually that their goals, plans, and dreams are bigger than mine, and I just say wow and I cheer them on. When it comes to me, I'm just gonna try my best to get out of this poverty because I just know that I have that strong will. Well, fast forward to adulthood, and in our early 20s, one of us started a small business. Let's call him Adam for the sake of the story, and he did this because he did not finish college. And me and the other one, let's call him Billy, went into corporate. I was so happy for Adam. I even started promoting his business, trying to find ways in which he can increase more sales. I mean, I loved helping him out. His business went booming for a year or two, but after that, it's not doing good anymore. And even to this day, it's still trying to survive. But during those times when Adam's business started to become weak, I was not there. I disappeared. Both Adam and Billy did not check on me. I was actually diagnosed with bipolar disorder. But when I am okay, I will just come back like nothing happened, even if I was a danger for myself. But they did not care to ask me what had happened. And you know what? It's okay. I know they both have things going on too, and I do not want to be a burden to them. As time goes by, I learned how to get out of the matrix and also got married to a very amazing and supportive man. I was eventually able to start my own business because of his motivation, and we are doing amazing. Well, Adam and Billy started seeing this progress and they started changing. When we would go to hang out, we would all chip in, but now they're expecting me to pay the whole bill. I then started hearing joking side comments from Adam. He will say stuff like, oh, that's fine, it won't hurt you because you're rich now. And I really just didn't mind because he's just like that sometimes. Then there came a time in which Adam started borrowing money from me, but unfortunately he never paid back, but tries to live a rich and famous lifestyle, even if his business isn't doing well. I tried several times being understanding and giving him some kind of grace, but I really got pissed off, and now I've just cut him off. But then here comes Billy, and this is the most hurtful one because I never thought he would be like Adam. Little by little, I started feeling like a bank for him and his family, who were so nice to me when we were kids. They always ask and borrow money from me, but the difference is that yes, they pay me on time, but they only remember me when they need more money. And they were seriously not like that before. I used to give their family presents and gifts for holidays and birthdays because I am really thankful for them being nice to me when I was absolutely nothing. But last week, I was not able to send some greetings and a gift to Billy's mom. This is because I'm actually 7 months pregnant now, and I got so caught up preparing for my baby. We're also building a house, so lots of things are going on right now. And this is the first year that I failed. And since I was busy, I also didn't lend Billy any money for his mom's birthday celebration, but I really think his mom took this negatively. I posted my baby's first ultrasound on Facebook, and before she used to send a heart for my post, but yesterday she did not. And I tried reaching out to try and talk to her, but she just doesn't answer anymore. So seriously, money indeed changes people, and most of the time, people simply do not want you to succeed. Wow, this is a really tragic story because yes, the original poster is 100% correct. There are people out there that literally don't want you to do better than them, and they will actively fight against you in any way they possibly can to bring you back down to their level. So if you're doing well in something, just keep it to yourself. Don't tell anybody your business and just be successful in private, because this kind of behavior is completely toxic and the original poster definitely did not deserve to get treated this way. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my family that if they don't like the way something is, then they need to take care of it themselves, as I literally have no time to do the chores they're complaining about, as I'm currently in the middle of trying to get my master's degree to better my family. But right now, I feel like I laid it on too thick, and I'm honestly starting to doubt myself. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm married and I have 3 kids, and they're all teenagers. My husband and I both work, and my kids are in school and do sports or clubs after school. I recently hit a ceiling in my field, and in order to continue to grow professionally, I had to get a graduate degree, so I started my master's. In the past, I usually did most of the chores. My husband does the typical man chores. My kids have some of their own chores, like doing their own laundry, taking turns sweeping and vacuuming, cleaning their own bathroom, etc. But I did the majority of the rest and all of the cooking. So I'm a year into my degree, and at the start, I was keeping up with the chores I did before, but it quickly wasn't possible. I then asked for help, and I was told, well, everything's fine, you're just being too picky. But over time, my family seems to be getting fed up. They've been complaining about things a lot lately, from eating frozen meals, to the floors having stains on them, all the way to the stairs having dust bunnies and pet fur on them. If they bring it up, I tell them they are capable of handling it, but they just walk away and it just doesn't get done. I'm doing what I can, but between work, school, and everything else at home, it can't all be done. We aren't living in squalor, but I just can't get the finer details like I could before. Well, yesterday my husband came to me while I was doing my homework and said that the shower curtain liner in our bathroom was moldy, and my God, this pushed me over the edge. I then had my family come into the living room, and I told them that if they don't like how something is, they have able bodies and they can deal with it themselves, that they have the skills to clean. I've just been taking care of so much that they don't see, stating that right now I need them to step up, that if they don't like something, then they need to step up and take care of it, and how I also plan to redistribute the chores accordingly. Now, my kids were arguing that they shouldn't have to do more. They're in school and they're busy afterwards, but I told them that I don't care, I'm busy too, and I can't do it all, and in nicer terms, I basically said they either need to step up or shut up. Well, that night my husband told me I was too harsh and that I need to lighten up. He says I was rude and basically telling them their feelings don't matter and that I need to lay off of them. But I told him the message wasn't only for the kids, it was for him too. He needs to step up as well. But afterwards, I started to doubt myself and I felt too harsh. And as a result, no one's really talking to me now. So I'm now worried that I laid it on just a little bit too thick. I mean, I did change up the status quo in my own household for my own personal reasons. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, this is so stupid. No, you're not the jerk at all. Your family's being very spoiled. You clearly took care of them in ways that they obviously didn't know about, and now that those things are like starting to pop up, they're trying to be like, oh my gosh, this is so moldy. The curtain's moldy, mom, what do we do? It's like, oh, I don't know, get some spray and clean it yourself? Like, they do realize you're getting this degree to better the family, right? Why would they not be on board and be like, okay, let me help out mom and be more responsible? Especially your husband, like, what's his excuse? He could easily step up and be like, okay, it's time to take care of my wife and help out. But instead, he's pouting like a child, acting like the original poster is being unreasonable. So no, you're not the jerk. This is honestly something that they can easily figure out, and the fact that they're still not willing to like step up, in my opinion, is unbelievably toxic. Am I the jerk for taking back my tip after the waitress humiliated me in front of everybody, all because I left a 10% tip, saying this wasn't good enough and that I need to give more money since servers struggle just to pay their rent? Because right now I'm still very upset and I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Here's how it went down. Okay, so this occurred a few nights ago and I just can't believe it actually happened the way that it did. My partner and I dined out at this Italian restaurant that we've been to several times now. It's not highly sophisticated, but pleasant enough that you get to sit down, order wine, and have a relaxing evening. Now, our server, let's name her Samantha, was kind of in a daze throughout the entire night. She lost my drink twice, served the wrong starter, and vanished for what seemed like an eternity when it arrived the time to order some dessert. It wasn't the end of the world. I mean, I've worked customer service myself, and I get that hectic nights go wild. However, the service was really poor. When the check came in, I paid and left a 10% cash tip. It's not excessive, but it's also not nothing either. her, and I really thought it was reasonable given the circumstances. We were just standing up to leave when Samantha came over, took the cash and said, "Seriously? This is it?" And she had said it audibly, with a few people at some nearby tables turning around and staring at us. And when she did this, I was taken aback. I didn't even know what to say. She then added by saying, "You know, servers can't pay their rent because of people like you. If you can't tip properly, then don't dine out." Well, the restaurant became totally silent, like sitcom silence, and my girlfriend was wincing. But I just remained calm and I said to her, "Okay, sorry you feel that way." And I started to leave the building. Then, no kidding, she said to me, "Whatever, cheapskates." But she said this loud enough that it was not only us that could hear it. So I turned around, I went back over, I walked over to the table and I took the tip and I left without saying another word. Now, my girlfriend later informed me that I did fine with this, but one of my friends feels like I had overstepped by insisting on getting the tip back. That no matter what, you just leave it and you move on. But I feel like to be humiliated and scolded, all because I left a 10% tip that I actually was going to leave for them, was completely out of bounds. So I really need to know, am I the jerk for retrieving the tip after she yelled at us in front of everybody in the restaurant? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off and I don't know if I made a mistake. Okay, dude, if someone ever did that to me and humiliated me like that, I would not only take the tip back, but I would also go straight to the manager. Like, this is just completely toxic. Who in their right mind would act like this? Like, seriously, this is a good way of just completely losing your job and any credibility as a server. So no, you're not the jerk. This is some stupid behavior, and this server absolutely deserved to get the tip taken away, especially after the way she humiliated you in front of everybody. My girlfriend's entitled friend wants me to pay for his dinner, all because of a minor disagreement that was incredibly small in nature, proving to me once and for all that this guy was super entitled. Here's what happened. Last Saturday night, my girlfriend and I went to have dinner, and we actually ran into one of her friends from high school and his girlfriend. From what I've gathered, they used to be close but drifted apart after graduation. Since my girlfriend and her friend hadn't seen each other in a long time, I suggested we all get a table together, and he and his girlfriend agreed to that. Well, whenever we get to a nice place or eat something new, my girlfriend likes to take photos. It's not like she has a full photo shoot. She takes what, maybe 10 seconds? It's not a big deal and it's something that she likes, so I don't really care. So when we get our food, my girlfriend took out her phone and the other girl took out hers as well. The friend then complained and made fun of her girlfriend and actually tried to get me on his side, but I just simply said that it's not that big of a deal, that I like to see my girlfriend happy and waiting a few seconds before eating is nothing to complain about. Well, I could tell that he didn't like me much after saying that, but I really don't care. I had a nice dinner with my girlfriend and she got to catch up with an old friend. Later that night, my girlfriend showed me her phone, and after leaving the restaurant, her friend had an argument with his girlfriend over his comments during dinner, and somehow he was blaming me. He told her that I owed him for the dinner, and my girlfriend just laughed at him, because that truly is a ridiculous thing to say. Yeah, this guy's an idiot, like seriously. He's trying to be like, wow, this is so stupid, isn't this dumb? But like, if my girlfriend enjoyed taking photos of food, then like, why not just let it happen? There's no reason to make fun of that. This makes her happy. Just let her do it. It's what, 10 seconds? It's not that big of a deal. So this guy just made things super awkward for no reason, all because he wanted to be a bully at everybody else's expense. An entitled jerk I've never worked with literally worked against me to try and block me from getting promoted. But after several years, I finally got to return the favor, blocking her from getting a job at my company and effectively blocking her from an enormous payday after we get bought out by a bigger company. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so I was working at a large company with plenty of politics. Promotions within a division were reviewed by a group of middle managers from different departments in that division during a live meeting with the head of division. Now, I was up for promotions, but I didn't get it. A couple of my manager level friends were in the meeting and actually told me why I got blocked. Basically, a manager from another department, who I had never worked with by the way, stood up and argued against my promotion, probably because this person was upset that a promotion she had put up was successfully argued against by her own department head. She had made up some completely untrue statement about my performance in order to get her way. Well, 4 years later, I'm a department head at a small company when we open a position as a head of function that my promotion blocker was part of. And sure enough, she applies and is scheduled for an interview when I get contacted by human resources because they notice we worked at the same company at the same time. Now, I remembered her blocking my promotion, so I told human resources that she wasn't good, she wouldn't be a good fit, and hiring her would be a mistake and all this other garbage. And so I effectively got her interview canceled, and they just told her that we decided to elevate to an internal candidate instead. 3 years later, and this company would end up getting taken out by a larger company for a massive stock price increase over the price that we were at when the position opened. And because we had lots of stock options, I effectively cost her an enormous payout, which is so satisfying because that's what she gets for being a jerk in a very connected industry, especially towards someone who literally had nothing to do with her. Yeah, you literally never know who you could be working for, so you probably in life, and especially especially in like the corporate world, you really should be nice to people and just try to play fair. Because yeah, sure, sometimes it works out where you can step on the little guy and get ahead, but I would argue that most times it doesn't work out that way. So in my opinion, the fact that the original poster did this to the person who blocked their promotion, like I think that's fantastic and absolutely deserved, because that lady literally got in your way for no good reason. And the fact that karma came back to bite her in the butt is absolutely fantastic. Am I the jerk for telling my friend that I don't want to end up like her after she told me to lower my standards after I denied one of her friends on a date? Because now we are not talking to each other and I feel like our relationship has completely imploded. And at this point, I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I met my friend who we will call Rachel 3 years ago in university and we became friends. For context, I'm 22 years old and I have never dated before and I'm completely fine with that. I don't purposefully seek out relationships and I'm comfortable being by myself. I have a few close friends and this is enough for me. In contrast, Rachel has had a lot of boyfriends and in her own words basically says she doesn't like to be single. She met her husband, who we will call Max, 2 years ago in one of our university classes and they quickly began dating. He isn't the most pleasant guy to be around in my opinion and they had quite a few big arguments during the relationship. He even tried to flirt with me and I told Rachel about it, but she just dismissed it, saying he was probably just trying to butter me up so I can help him with homework. He's also told some awful jokes in the past as well. Whenever they fought, I always told Rachel she deserves better and to please just break up with him. But in the end, they always made up. He then proposed to her after 1 year and they got married 4 months ago. However, after they moved in together in the flat that Rachel's parents pay the rent for, Max became even worse. He never helps out with cleaning or cooking, doesn't really take Rachel out on dates anymore, and whenever she tries to talk to him about it, Max tells her to stop complaining about wife duties. So a few days ago, Rachel asked me if I would like to go on a date with one of her friends from high school who is also single and is looking for a relationship. I've never been on a date before, so I agreed out of curiosity. Well, we went to a nice restaurant and the guy never asked me a single question about myself back. And after I got tired of coming up with questions about him, we just sat the rest of the meal in awkward silence. We then split the bill and after he walked me to the subway station, he tried to kiss me, but I declined as politely as I could and I just went home. The next day I met up with Rachel and apparently she's already heard about how the date went from her friend. She asked me why I rejected him and I told her the reasons I mentioned before and that I really just didn't like the guy. Then she rolled her eyes and said that I need to lower my standards because honestly I'm not that attractive. She then said that I blew maybe my only chance to date and if I continue like that, I'll end up forever alone, which is despite the fact that she knows I'm fine not being in a relationship. Also, I'm not insecure about my appearance, but hearing my friends say that about me really hurt. I then got angry and I said, well, it's better to be forever alone than end up like you, with a husband that doesn't even respect me. Well, when I said that, she started crying and said to me, you're being rude. I'm just looking out for you. And then she went ahead and left. And ever since this happened, we haven't texted each other or spoken ever since then. So I'm honestly not sure if I want to salvage this friendship after finding out this is how Rachel felt about me all this time. However, I feel guilty for saying this to her, especially when I knew it was a sore spot, and also for kind of blaming her for the fact that her husband is awful. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Dude, your friend is so stupid. Rachel actually is an idiot for saying half the things she said. First of all, the fact that she's trying to be like, oh yeah, you need to get going or else you're never gonna find anybody. You're not very attractive, so like the clock's ticking, hurry up. Which is so ironic coming from the lady in an awful relationship. She is literally with a guy who doesn't respect her and treats her like crap. And she has the audacity to say the original poster's ugly. Like, dude, what are you doing? That is not a good friend in the slightest. Like, that's a terrible person that you definitely don't have to put up with. So honestly, the fact that you shot back at her when she called you ugly, like that is completely justified in my opinion. If she can't handle the heat, then guess what? Don't get in the way of the crossfire. Like, she's the one that opened herself up to get hit, not you. So the fact that she's trying to be like, I can't believe you said that, that's awful. It's like, yeah, okay, well, you just called me ugly and said I'm gonna die alone. Like, that's not very nice either, lady. So no, you're not the jerk here, and honestly, I would definitely find a better friend, because this one sounds like a mess and you can absolutely do better than this. An entitled old jerk barges into our restaurant and steals the one private table we had set aside for a couple who was looking forward to it all night, effectively ruining their night and my night as well. Here's what happened. For starters, I work at a restaurant that is closer to a local small bistro of some kind, which is not super upscale but usually fully booked out, because we are in an awesome location and we don't have many tables. We recently had a woman email us saying that she wants to bring her boyfriend here to celebrate a very special event, and it's not too unusual to receive more detailed table requests for special occasions every now and then. It can range from booking a whole seating area for privacy all the way to asking to put up some decor and then some. But this lady really didn't ask for much. She just wanted to know if she could pay up front to have a more secluded decorated table. table. Now, we love these kinds of reservations, especially when people ask nicely and are realistic about it. We closed off a little corner of the restaurant and put up some string lights, some candles, and some flowers. She also came in earlier that night to put up something of her own. And again, I don't want to say what it was for, but it was clearly a very personal item. Well, the night of, the couple arrives, gives me their last name, and I, of course, know immediately who they are, and I happily lead them to their very special table. But when I get there, I find an old lady and a little kid sitting there with their belongings all over the place. It turns out they thought the please wait to be seated sign and the close for private event sign and the reserve sign somehow didn't apply to them. They just barged right past everything when no one was looking, and sure enough simply claimed the only free table that they could see. Now, some people just have zero awareness, so part of me had to assume that maybe they were just a little slow. I tried to confront them very nicely, even though I was panicking with the couple right behind me. But boy oh boy, that older lady knew exactly what she was doing, and immediately blew up about how no one was tending to their table, and that we were making them wait. I then explained that this table was reserved and that they needed to leave, and that the whole place was fully booked out. She then loudly explained to me that she did not care, that the other restaurant on our block was also full, and that her and her grandson have every right to be here. It took a lot of arguing between me, them, and my coworkers, but when we said we would call the police to have them removed, she finally gave up. But unfortunately, most of the damage was already done. It left everyone in a pretty sour mood, and to make matters even worse, the idiotic kid had tampered with the sweet woman's personal item that she had put up there right before. Now, this thing wasn't valuable, it was just a cute little surprise she was hoping to show to the couple. Well, the couple looked pretty upset, and while they didn't blame us for anything, I could just tell how close to tears the woman was. The surprise she had planned was a pretty big deal, and I seriously felt so awful for her. I've always heard stories about having to deal with crazy people in the service industry, but this seriously was a first for me. I'm just a student doing this some nights a week for some extra cash, but my absolute deepest condolences goes to anyone dealing with this kind of crap for a living, because honestly, this sounds like way too much to put up with. Oh my gosh, talk about entitled. You mean to tell me that these people ran through like what, 3 different signs and said, oh yeah, we're gonna sit right here. This reserve seat, yeah, it's actually reserved for us. We're gonna claim it and take it over. Like, I don't blame the kid for showing up and sitting at the table, but I absolutely blame this old lady for stepping up and being like, oh yeah, we're gonna sit there. Because you know for a fact she knows better than this. She knows better than to walk in and just barge right in and do whatever she wants. Any reasonable person would be at the hostess stand waiting for like any seat to open up or something like that. This is not the first restaurant this lady's walked into, and I'm sure she's done this at other restaurants, where she goes in there and does whatever she wants, and then she thinks she can get away with it just by being nasty and rude to you. And I seriously hate people who act this way. Like, seriously, those people suck and they are absolute scumbags. So yes, this was a crappy situation that absolutely could have been avoided, especially if that old woman took the time to read. My entitled neighbors cussed me out all because I wouldn't buy her baby formula, as she tried to claim that I was letting her baby go hungry. Here's how it went down. Okay, so my fiance and I currently live in a sober living facility for couples. We've been here since March and are about to graduate next month. There's another couple in the program that just moved in upstairs. The female, we'll call her Kate, has been constantly asking us for things ever since she and her husband moved in 2 weeks ago. For more background, my fiance has a good paying job, but we're trying to save every penny we can to get our own apartment, because if we don't have one by the time we graduate, we will literally be out on the street. So while I don't mind helping people when I can, I am not in a place where I can really afford to help other people. I mean, I'm barely staying afloat myself. It started out small, a cup of sugar here, an egg there, but then it escalated. She started asking for money for bus fare, to borrow my perfume, and even wear my clothing. Now, I've been where she is, coming off the streets with nothing, so I've tried to be as generous as I can, but today she pushed it way too far. My fiance and I were laying down for a nap. We even had a sign on the door that said we're sleeping, but sure enough, she came knocking anyways. My fiance does not handle being woken up well at all, especially when someone is rude enough to blatantly ignore the sign. So when he answered the door, he had a bit of an attitude. Now, instead of apologizing, she immediately burst into fake tears, saying her baby needed formula and that she needed $50 to send to her mom, or else her mom was going to terminate her rights. My fiance asked when she would pay it back, and she said she didn't know, but not to worry, that she would definitely pay him back as soon as she could. He then told her that he couldn't give away $50, and if she expected him to loan it to her, he was going to have some sort of time frame. She then got huffy and snapped at him. I literally just told you I'd pay it back. And he finally was just like, yeah, I would if I could, but things are tight right now, so I can't really afford it. Sorry. And that's when she suddenly claimed that she would pay it back tomorrow. And obviously that was a lie, and we both knew it. So he told her he couldn't do it and then just shut the door. Well, a few minutes later, we heard her cussing outside of our door. saying things like, I will know better than to ask anyone around here for effing help ever again. I can't wait till that idiot asks me for something. But the real kicker was to say, it takes a cold piece of crap to let a baby go hungry. And it's like, excuse me? Ain't nobody letting your baby go hungry but you and your man. I am not a piece of crap, and I would never let a child starve. If I knew where that baby was, I'd go buy formula and take it to her mom myself. But I'm not handing $50 to someone that I know for a fact is not going to spend it on her child. And I'm absolutely sure I'm not going to loan it to someone who I know is lying to my face about paying it back. I'm a recovering addict too. I know the games. I've played every single one of them. And even if what she said about her mom was true, which I completely doubt it was, the fact that her mom is willing to so easily terminate her rights just lets me know that this has been an ongoing thing with her. She's obviously not taking care of her child and hasn't been for a while, or her mom wouldn't be getting this fed up with her crap. Now, we have never told her no before today. We've given and given, but $50 in hard-earned money is a lot different than a cup of sugar, especially when we're saving every dime to avoid homelessness, which is essentially what her and her man should be doing. They are both perfectly capable of getting jobs just like the rest of us. It is not my responsibility to take care of two grown adults. The audacity of some people never ceases to amaze me, and this lady and her husband absolutely take the cake. Yeah, this is one of those situations where you called it perfectly. That money was never going to their baby. It's going to the addiction they clearly struggle with. And then for them to stand outside your door and be like, I'm never helping these people with anything. It's like, dude, you've never helped them with anything. You were never going to in the first place, and you've only taken from them. Like, lady, who are you kidding right now? Because seriously, people like this are so toxic, and I just cannot stand this kind of attitude. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for kicking my wife's family out of the house after they kept extending their stay way beyond what they told us? Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, we just bought a house 2 weeks ago. We are not even fully unpacked when my wife's parents said, hey, next month, can we stay 3 nights over the weekend? It would be her mom, dad, and 2 youngest siblings. Now, the week they asked, they changed their mind, packed the car, and just drove here straight away. They then got here on a Sunday and said they were only staying for 3 nights. But then 2 nights into it, they said they want to stay 1 more night. Now, suddenly my wife's sister wants to come up here and spend the weekend, meaning that this entire week there's a few people staying over, and honestly, I want everybody gone. I mean, I'm working late just to not come home. My routine is completely gone. I need to mow and do other house chores, and they're keeping our toddler up late, sitting at the table drinking beer. And yeah, sure, they brought up some like really great house gifts, but I just feel really twisted about this. I do not care about them. So am I the jerk for telling my wife never to do this again and asking them to leave early? Also, would I be in the wrong for never allowing people to stay here during the week when I have to go to work? Because right now I'm honestly so frustrated that I just don't know what to do. Oh man, there's no way you're the jerk, because this would set my hair on fire, dude. These people literally showed up on a night you were not expecting them and said, oh, we're gonna stay for a few days. And then they extend their stay without asking. Like, dude, that's 2 red flags right there. Showing up unannounced and then staying longer than you said you would. And on top of that, it just doesn't seem like they care in the slightest that they're ruining your plans. Like, they're just straight up in the way. They're just not doing anything, and instead they're just sitting around doing nothing. So yeah, that's super obnoxious, and no, you would not be the jerk. Because if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. My coworker said that I should cover her shift, all because, according to her, I don't have any real family I can spend with over the holidays. And I'm honestly so blown away by this entitlement, because some of my other coworkers actually agree with her, and I'm honestly blown away. Here's how it went down. I work in retail, and this past Christmas was the first time in forever I actually got Christmas Eve off. I was planning a quiet dinner at home with my boyfriend. Nothing huge, just something that felt special to us. About a week before, one of my coworkers pulled me aside and asked me if I would take her shift. I told her nicely that I already had plans, but she gave me this weird little smirk and she says, well, it's not like you have real family anyways. And when she said this, I just stood there. At first I thought, okay, maybe I just misheard her. But no, she doubled down like that somehow made it okay to dump her crap on me. I didn't even know what to say. It was such an unnecessarily nasty thing to say too. Now, I didn't snap. I just said no again and then I walked off. Later on, I let my manager know what happened, not to cause drama, but because honestly, it just didn't sit right with me, and I wanted to have it on the record. Well, since then, she's been icy towards me, and apparently a couple of other coworkers think that I was petty for not helping her out. Maybe they expected me to just suck it up, but I'm so tired of always being the one expected to bend. Just because I don't have kids or a big, loud family dinner doesn't mean that my time doesn't matter. My life still counts, and I am not gonna let people treat me like it doesn't. Dude, your coworker's an idiot. Do they really expect you to like bend to their will when they're like, oh, you don't have any real family anyways? Like, dude, you're not gonna get anything done by treating your coworker like that, especially when you're going to insult them, dude. Like, what an idiot. That's such a dumb dumb way to handle that. So you didn't do anything wrong, and honestly, I'm glad you reported them because this is definitely something you want a record of. And your other coworkers are morons. If they really think that you're being petty and it's like, oh, you should have helped her out, well then why didn't they? Why didn't they step up and be like, I'll cover your shift, don't worry about it? Like, it's always the people who are quick to judge that are also the last to help out. It's like, oh, you love sitting on the sidelines and saying, wow, you should have done that differently. But when it comes to like, okay, well, why didn't you step up and do it? They literally have nothing to say because, oh, this is not about me, this is about you. So good for you for standing up for yourself because you do not owe these people anything, especially if they're going to talk to you like that. Today, I was chewed out by my hotel manager in a way I have never experienced before in my life, leaving me shaken and panicky because right now I'm honestly in fear for my job. Here's what's going on. Okay, before I start, let me preface this by saying that this is my first job and I've only been working for 2 weeks. So I work at a hotel that has 3 restaurants. One is the main buffet style restaurant, another one is a la carte and free for all guests once a week, and the third one is a bit more exclusive. Now, I only got trained on how to take reservations, and I was specifically told that you cannot book a table for the same day. It has to be at least 1 day in advance. That's how I'd seen it done, and it's what everyone around me confirmed was the rule. Anyways, earlier this evening, a guest came in visibly irritated and said she wanted to make a reservation for tonight. I politely told her I was sorry, but there was nothing available for the evening, and I offered her a spot for the next day, and when I said that, she got angry and just stormed off. Now, I didn't think much of it. I mean, this has happened before. Not everyone likes hearing no, but most understand the policy. However, 30 minutes later, some guy who works at the hotel walks in asking about the incident. It turns out the customer had been complaining about it at the reception. We explained the situation and he seemed frustrated but says nothing about it. Well, a while later, we are told the hotel manager wants a meeting with us. He pulls in me, a couple of my coworkers, but not our actual supervisor, which is already very weird. Then he starts grilling us about the guest and what I said, and when I explained the policy I was taught, he basically says the rule doesn't exist and you're never supposed to tell a guest no, which is so weird to me because neither my supervisors nor my coworker knew about that rule. They had been working the way they did for years without hearing anything about it. He spent 50 minutes explaining procedures that I didn't understand at all and finished by saying, don't ever say no to a guest again or I will end you. And I think he meant to say fire you, I think, or at least I hope so. At that point, I was overwhelmed, I was panicking, trying not to cry in front of everybody. After the meeting, one of my coworkers hugged me and I just broke down. We had to hide so guests and staff wouldn't see me sobbing, but of course, some people still did. A bit later, our supervisor, who hadn't been in the meeting, finally found me and said that he had been given the exact same answer I did because that's what we all knew to be true. He told me he's been watching me and I'm doing a great job and that I shouldn't let people treat me like that, especially when I'm still new and trying my best. And with that, I started crying again. I ended up crying 3 separate times that evening in front of staff on the bus ride home, like literally everybody somehow knew. I kept being worried that they might think I'm being manipulative or weak or dramatic, but I think it was literally just a panic attack, all because I followed the rule that they taught me. It's currently 3 a.m. and I'm still overwhelmed and I honestly just don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, I understand being upset from your job, like I totally get that. I've been there, I've experienced that, and yes, it really does suck. But let's circle back for a second because this guy literally said he was going to end you. And I think you understand what I mean by end. We're talking like delete the original poster from existence. I can't say the word for obvious reasons. And that is absolutely insane. Like, I understand that he's like really being dramatic here, but no boss should ever say that to their employee. Like, I'm sorry, that's not appropriate. That sounds like a one-way trip to human resources because that's a threat, bro. Like, what's going on right now? That's also incredibly unprofessional. You're 2 weeks in, and guess what? This is how you were taught to handle things. And this idea of like, oh, don't ever say no to a customer. Like, dude, you're an idiot and you clearly have been in management for way too long because yes, you absolutely need to say no to customers sometimes. So truly, I'm so sorry this happened to you. This really sucks, but I completely understand where you're coming from. But at the end of the day, you need to realize that that hotel manager is a piece of garbage. And what he said to you is something that absolutely needs to be reported. An entitled old man and his son give me a hard time after I'm unable to help him get back in his wheelchair, all because I'm 9 months pregnant, making me feel awkward over this really weird encounter. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I'm 9 months pregnant and 2 weeks away from my due date. I take a daily walk for exercise, and on today's walk, I saw 2 men on the footpath across from me. One of them was elderly and had taken a fall, and his son, who was also not that young, was trying to help him up. They had one of those stroller things that's not quite a wheelchair, but has a little seat thing on it. I then called out if they needed help, and I crossed the street. I tried to help the son hoist his father up, but the father was dead weight and couldn't assist in any way. I also have no experience in lifting people, and the son probably didn't either, so we were not getting anywhere. The son kept suggesting new ways to try, but after a few tries, I said that being 9 months pregnant, I wasn't sure how effective I would be. The son and father then got snarky and said something like, well, this will be over soon if you just help us out. I then offered to knock doors for help, and the son son just shut down the idea completely and continued to give me directions. And his directions kind of pissed me off because it was like, do this and do that. So I said that if they don't want to ask the neighbors, they could possibly call for an ambulance. And where I'm from, if you have a membership, it's either free or not that expensive. The dad then made a sound at me and looked at his son and asked, well, why isn't she helping us? Eventually, a random car drove past and I flagged it down like a mad woman. It turns out it was someone from a nearby house, so he came back with his sons and got it sorted out. It was a very awkward encounter, and honestly, I'm not sure if I was in the wrong here, because these guys were very rude. Oh yeah, this situation really sucks. I understand where the guys were coming from, but also, dude, the original poster's pregnant. And we're talking like very pregnant, like 9 months pregnant, about to have a baby pregnant. So for these guys to be like, why aren't you helping us up? It's like, dude, what are you talking about? She can't lift anything. She literally can't do that. Like, I don't know what they're looking for, but like, seriously, get a grip. And like, honestly, the original poster did a lot. They tried to help him up. They tried to like, I don't know, get someone else to come out and help them. And these people were being like completely snappy. And I totally understand where they're coming from, but it's like, dude, let's read the room a little bit. Like, she clearly can't help you up. Like, why are you acting like that? So no, you didn't do anything wrong. And yeah, these guys were absolutely being very rude. My niece literally thinks she owns my parents' house, as she is constantly saying that I'm not welcome there, despite the fact that my parents welcome me over all the time. Here's what's going on. I'm a 27-year-old female, and I've been over at my parents' place a lot these past couple of months. I live in a town where the bus stops running at 9:15 at night, and I have rehearsal that runs until 10 o'clock at night. So I just go to my parents' place and I stay the night. Yes, they have offered to drive me home whenever I have rehearsal, but I prefer not to make them drive the half hour it will take to get out to the town. So we just wait until the morning when my dad goes to work. Now, my brother and his fiance and his 3 kids from another relationship all live with my parents. But for this story, I'll be focusing on my middle niece, who's 9 years old, who I will call Sarah for the sake of the story. Now, my nieces will notice me come in at 11 o'clock at night. Now, because I would not eat all day and have to get up at 6 o'clock the next morning, I would just make something really quick and fall asleep. Well, Sarah would see me make dinner and demand that I stop stealing their food. Keep in mind, there are no separate shelves, nor are things labeled, as my brother doesn't contribute to the grocery bill. She also gets mad when I come over and demands to know why. Well, the other day I had to take a test online, and I had the mic on and the camera on, and Sarah was playing Minecraft videos very loudly. When I said something, she yelled at me, and you know what? I ended up failing that test, and I had to retake it. Fast forward to yesterday, and Sarah asked me when I would stop coming over. So I told her it was none of her concern. She then began telling everyone in the house that I was getting kicked out of my apartment. So I told her that wasn't the case, and she just got mad and threw a fit. My parents then scolded her, but she got even angrier, saying that I'm no longer welcome in the house. Now trust me, this is just a few things that she has done. And I'm sorry if this seems boring, but I just need to rant about my niece because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, if this was me, I would be very frustrated because in my opinion, there is nothing more annoying than some kid who's not being parented, because it really sucks that you're on the blunt end of this kind of garbage. I know if I was in your shoes, I would go immediately to the parents and be like, look, you need to correct this before I correct it. And trust me, you don't want me correcting this stupid kid. Because seriously, this kid has no say in whether or not you're at the house. She literally needs to learn how to mind her own business and keep her mouth shut. So yeah, this kid is completely out of touch and just really idiotic, because this kind of behavior is completely unacceptable. An entitled boomer thought that he could be rude to me all because I'm a female, but he instantly regretted that after he met my boyfriend, who shut this coward down in a way that he will truly never forget. Here's how it happened. Okay, so yesterday my boyfriend and I went to happy hour and then ran to Whole Foods to return something I bought from Amazon. We were looking for the return desk when I noticed the boomer guy coming in behind me. I pointed out the return desk to my boyfriend when all of a sudden, this boomer hightails it to get right in front of me. Now, mind you, he had one item to return, as did I, but he was determined on getting in front of me. Well, long story short, he went up to the desk before me and stood in front of the employee who was working on repacking a return. Well, she looked at him and said, "The line starts there," pointing to the sign that clearly states line starts here where I was already standing. Well, this boomer just stood there with his return, refusing to move from the spot in front of the one employee. Another employee came up and said that she could help who was next in line, so I decided to walk up with my box. Well, this jerk then yells out, "I was here first," and then practically tried to body check me. Mind you, he was still standing in front of the other employee. I stepped back because I saw a young kid come up and stand next to him, and normally I would have happily called him some kind of not so nice name and then hip checked him. And for reference, I used to play roller derby and I'm not tiny. Now, my boyfriend did not like that he, for one, practically ran to get in front of me, and secondly, barked at me and nearly pushed me out of the way. I guarantee he would not have been so aggressive if my boyfriend was behind him, but because I'm a female, he thought that he could be a jerk to me. Well, little did he know, my boyfriend's a retired cop and doesn't put up with people being rude, especially to any female, let alone me. My boyfriend then proceeded to let loose with a tirade of how he was rude to me because I'm a female, female and that he wasn't as important as he thinks he is. I then watched this boomer instantly shrink down and refuse to make eye contact. After he was done, the employees at the return desk apologized for him being so rude. I told them it wasn't their fault and some people just don't have manners. And to be completely honest, if he would have asked me if he could go first because he was in a rush or something, I would have happily let him go first. But no, he was more important than me, a female. I thoroughly enjoyed watching him turn shades of red as my boyfriend gave him a good teardown, because this boomer absolutely deserved it. Oh man, I love running into people like this because they are always so completely stuck up. Like seriously, anything will piss them off and they're just on the edge all the time. This guy literally walked into the store and said, "Oh, I'm gonna be first in line," and not only sprints to the front, but also gets in the wrong part of the line. It's like, dude, you've got to have some serious guts and some serious entitlement to be acting that way. And I 100% think the original poster is right. This guy only acted like this because you're a woman, and that is the only reason he tried to pull that. So I'm really glad your boyfriend stepped up and said, "Oh no, we're not putting up with that," because this is some unbelievably horrible behavior. Like, all he had to do was get in the right line and this all would have been completely fine. Or even just, oh, I don't know, walk over there like a normal person. That would have been a reasonable thing to do instead of acting like an idiot and humiliating yourself. Like, it's so funny because the second your boyfriend stepped in and said, "Oh, you better cut the crap," this guy instantly clams up and doesn't make eye contact. Like, talk about being a coward, my god. So good for you guys handling this in such a dynamic way, because this guy absolutely deserved to get shut down. My coworker seems to think that I should cover all of her shifts simply because I'm single, as she will literally put in shift changes without my permission, all because she thinks I have nothing to do outside of work. And I'm honestly so sick of dealing with this that at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, this is driving me absolutely insane. I work at a restaurant and there's this girl who I will call Sarah, who is constantly asking me to cover her shifts. Now, I'm a 26-year-old male, and apparently, according to her, being single means that I have no life. At first, it was occasional. She had a date, a family thing, whatever, but now it's literally every single week. Last Friday, she texted me at 6 o'clock asking if I could work her double because she wanted to go to her boyfriend's cousin's birthday party. When I said no, she said to me, "Oh, come on, you don't have anything else to do anyways." But you know what? Yesterday was the final straw. She scheduled a shift trade with me without asking, and then told our manager that I agreed to it. When I confronted her, she said, "Oh, I figured you'd be fine with it since you don't have a girlfriend or kids to worry about." And it's like, the audacity of this woman. Just because I'm single doesn't mean I don't have plans, hobbies, or a life outside of work. I have friends and family and things that I want to do on my days off. Our manager seems to think that this is just normal workplace stuff, but I'm getting really tired of being treated like my time doesn't matter. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, if you haven't done it already, I would never cover a shift for this lady ever again. If she's gonna treat you like someone who has no plans and no life simply because you're single, while also on top of that, be someone who she can take advantage of, then my god, that's like a one-way ticket to never getting help from me ever again, especially if I was in your shoes. I would also go to my boss and be like, "Are you insane? I didn't agree to any of this. This is not normal, and no, I don't appreciate this." Like, why is your manager not hearing both sides of the story? Why are they automatically trusting Sarah's opinion over yours? Like, that's so ridiculous in my opinion. And it doesn't make any sense, dude. Like, seriously. This lady literally tried to do a shift change with you without asking first, and then lied about it as if you agreed to it, but you definitely didn't. And I don't know about you, but that would piss me off so bad. I'd be so mad at them. So yeah, you absolutely need to cut the cord and be like, "I'm not helping you anymore." And then block her number and just don't even respond if she asks for that crap again. Because this kind of behavior is incredibly toxic, and in my opinion, it absolutely is workplace bullying. And you definitely do not deserve to be treated like that in the slightest. My toxic managers literally do nothing at work, constantly barking orders at me and my coworkers, while also doing nothing to assist us when we're incredibly busy. But after my manager sends me home after he thinks I'm not doing any work, this restaurant falls into disarray, as they literally have to close this restaurant over the summer just to figure out how they're gonna save their business. And I'm honestly so satisfied walking away from this job because these people were the absolute worst. Here's what happened. I want to start things out by saying that I worked at a restaurant, and at this restaurant we had a front salad bar, a buffet with a salad bar, as well as things like a juice bar and ice cream counter, and a small alcohol room with a bar. And this place was so popular even though it was expensive, but somehow we were still underpaid, understaffed, and poorly managed. Now, a woman I will call Jenny is the daughter and the only child of the owners of the restaurant. She is extremely spoiled, she almost always gets her way, and she has a temper where she will get pissed off and just lay into the person for an hour straight. She used to come in screaming at everyone for nothing, and straight up made awful or just nasty jokes. She would push people to come in sick and then ask why they were so slow. You know, just your typical nightmare manager. Now, one of the kitchen managers, who we will call Marco, is the son of a family friend and a beloved member of the community. His management consisted of micromanaging, criticizing our work, blaming random people for things, giving extra time constraints for tasks, encouraging everyone to smile, and going around asking people while they're in the middle of working their 3 jobs when they wanted to come in the next day or if they'd like to cover a shift on Saturday or whatever. He would forget to do things and then blame other people. Then he would go around criticizing people for their time management or responsibility. Anytime we reported that something was broken or something wasn't working, he just told us to figure it out and nothing would be done about it until Jenny came in screaming at everyone and narrowed it down to Marco. Now, we had other managers come in and out, but they simply couldn't take it. There were people who were suddenly hired to take on big positions despite having no idea what they were doing, or join with less than a full day of training just because the place was desperate. The waitresses were paid less than $4 an hour, and some of them were doing part of the dishwasher's duties, front manager duties, cleaning jobs including kitchen and employee bathroom, and I want to say that dishwashing was the worst, as 3 different people would come to work drunk or high every day just to tolerate everything. My coworker, who I will call DJ, kept up even when other dishwashers weren't working. He helped me or other waitresses clean and literally had to monitor food that was cooking, and he'd keep track of orders because the manager Marco and the chef wanted to mess around or go stand by the door and smoke. There were days where staff members would break down or get sick pulling a double shift, and he did everything for them. I mean, there was no choice. Now, my job was preparing and filling food items for the main salad bar in front every day, and some days I also did salad bar in the buffet. I had other things to do as part of my normal salad buffet job, including making food for reservations, preparing and stocking the juice bar, and helping move stock into the freezers and the fridge. On top of that, I was packing non-salad food for delivery and takeout, helping maintain and stock up to half the buffet, helping waitresses keep up with serving and bussing, doing ice cream and desserts, cleaning the whole kitchen and storage areas and customer bathrooms, helping the bar staff, helping at the front desk whenever I was out, and preparing ingredients or fetching things for the normal chef and buffet chefs. I did all of this for little more than a minimum wage. I fell down every day because I was running on wet floors, and I had a heat stroke and even had to go to the ER for injuries. On buffet days, I had a partner, but that just simply didn't matter. She just stood around right in front of the manager, Marco, talking to her cousin who worked there while just watching me work. And both she and Marco would take breaks every now and then to criticize my work or my speed. Everything was held together by DJ and me. We were teenagers on Rockstar drinks, so we took whatever was coming to us. We kept everything going so well that we got scheduled to work almost every day and then every weekend. Jenny gave us free soda privilege, and we got raises 2 times in 5 months, which were only 10 cents, but it did look good to me because my dad praised all of my paychecks. He didn't know what was going on and that I was working crazy hours, and he just thought I was overpaid. Now, most of the customers were very sweet, so we tried our best to be of service, and a lot of them were regulars or people who came in to support Marco or everyone. There was always so much pressure on DJ and me. Also, DJ isn't white, and he would always get these inappropriate comments and jokes, and Marco and Jenny either did nothing or were the offenders themselves. Most of the criticism or Marco's projection went to him, despite him doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing and only occasionally messing up due to extreme stress or time constraint. After a certain point, almost every criticism was race-based in some kind of way. Well, one horrible Saturday, there were 3 times as many reservations as usual, and this is on top of all the bars and buffet being completely open. I clocked in and I found out one of the managers let go DJ the afternoon before, and absolutely nobody knew why, including DJ, and I'm really assuming it was Marco. I already had zero hope for the day, and the only thing fueling me was the customers and my paycheck, of course. Well, in just the first hour, I passed Marco at least 5 times trying to get things done. There was one time we accidentally made eye contact while I was helping out a waitress, but at some point I went into the freezer in the back to help load some ice cream in, and he happened to walk in there at the same time that I was standing there for like 3 seconds doing nothing according to him, waiting for my coworker to bring in the dolly. He gave me this frustrated look like, "Get back to work," and he then caught me maybe half an hour later while I was coming into the back of the kitchen near the freezer to mop up some spilled water. The final time he caught me, I was in the freezer again, looking at the inventory to see what fruit we had enough of, because I could only serve what we had enough of in case people requested more, and it was at this point that Marco apparently had had enough. He said to me, "The place is insanely busy, and you're just in here standing in the freezer for like 4 hours. You need to go home." I gave him this look because I was completely stunned, and he just reiterated that I was done for the night. But you know what? I was not going to argue with Marco. This was not my problem. I just said thanks, I took my apron off, and I headed out. Both the employees' doors were blocked by trash cans, and my partner was standing there with a whole cart of things talking to her cousin, so I went to use the main side door in the front of the restaurant. Jenny saw me and asked where I was going, so I just put put a smile on my face and said, "Oh man, Marco's the best guy ever. He just randomly came up to me and told me to take the night off." Well, when I said this, Jenny's face went from confused to shocked, all the way to livid in the span of like 1 second. She quickly told me, "Oh, don't go just yet," to which she screamed into the kitchen looking for Marco. Now, I pretended not to hear her over the music and customers, and I just turned around and decided to leave. I then got over 10 phone calls, but I simply let my phone ring. I waited until my partner updated her Facebook status that basically said, "Oh, we're finally closed, good night," or something like that. And I finally texted Marco back and gave an apology that sucked up in the most condescending way. But I did it in a way that was personal that only he would understand if he were to show it to someone else. Well, I came back the next morning and it was a complete disaster. Marco and Jenny came in looking dead tired because they spent the rest of the night and overtime busting their butt, trying to keep things going. There were actually dishes and trash cans piled up, and both the buffet and kitchen were wrecked because Jenny and her dad didn't want to keep the workers late and pay them overtime. As a result, the restaurant had to close for the summer. They posted all these job opportunities in schools and on Facebook, and eventually opened back up. But I never answered, and DJ didn't accept amends, so it was a whole spiral. Because of me leaving and DJ being fired, they had to close down their ice cream and minimize their buffet, and they now close earlier because they simply can't handle it. There are less customers supporting Marco, and there were even customers saying they aren't coming back until Marco or Jenny leaves. There was a waitress who joined during my time there, and it was her first job ever, and now she is the only previous employee left, and she ended up getting appointed as a manager at some point. I think they had to offer her a lot of money to stay because she bought a new house. Marco is the only other manager now, and Marco is still asking me to come back. And since I deleted my Facebook, I kept that phone number open and prepaid service on my old phone just for the purpose of reading his text messages during my lunch break. Because Marco and Jenny made my life a living nightmare, and honestly, seeing them suffer is kind of satisfying. Dude, imagine working at a place that literally acts like this. This is some high school crap. Not only do you have Marco micromanaging everything you do, but you've also got Jenny, the most useless manager on the planet, screaming and freaking out about all the dumbest things you could possibly think of. And the fact that they fired DJ over nothing. Like, dude, that guy was keeping the place in order. You really just got rid of your best worker. I can't stand managers like this, dude. It's so annoying because they don't do their job and then they rely on people they're underpaying, who they're also just like mistreating the entire time they're working there. Like, seriously, this sucks. I hate jobs like this. So good for you for not going back because that place sounded awful. And the fact that they're still trying to find staff and beg you to come back is the best evidence you need to prove that you absolutely were not the problem, whereas Marco and Jenny 100% were. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My sister is demanding that my husband provide free transportation for all of her wedding guests, ignoring the fact that he runs a transportation business, and he would have to shut things down for free just to make it happen. And when I told her no, that's not going to happen, she said that I'm not being supportive. And at this point, I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my sister is getting married soon. I was at her place helping with some wedding prep when she suddenly says, "I want to announce free transportation for all of my wedding guests just to make it look classy." I then was like, okay, that's nice, but how are you going to pull that off? She said to me, "Well, since your husband owns a transportation business and has a few cars, it'll be easy for him to handle it." So I said to her, okay, he will be here soon to pick me up, and when he comes, you guys can talk and maybe bargain out the price. She then cuts me off and goes, "No, I don't want to pay. I mean, I want him to offer it for free to my guests." And when she said that, I just looked at her. She then added on that if I talk to him, he'll accept it because he listens to me. I then asked her, well then why do you want to promise free services to people when you're not the one providing them? She then said to me, "Oh, I have rich friends I invited for the wedding, and I think you know what that means. I just want to make it look so classic. You can talk to him about it." I then told her straight out, I'm not going to convince my husband to pause his business, offer up his cars, as well as fuel, drivers, and time all for free just so you can look good in front of her rich friends. Well, when I said that, she said I'm not being supportive to her, and at this point, I'm not sure what to do. Oh my gosh, this is some serious entitlement. Imagine being so entitled that you're like, oh yeah, your husband's business? I need him to stop production and miss out on thousands of dollars in any kind of payment just to cater to my wedding. Like seriously, you are not that important. The fact that she wants to be like, oh yeah, you can talk to him, he'll listen to you. And it's like, yeah, of course he's gonna listen to her. That's his wife, dude. He's gonna hear this garbage offer and be like, no, I'm not gonna do that. That's insane. So if I was in your shoes, I would tell her, no, that's not gonna happen, and then leave it at that. Because what she's asking from you is completely insane. insane. Am I the jerk for not helping my coworker with her project after she literally got a promotion after taking credit for my idea? Because right now I'm being called uncooperative, and at this point I'm just so burnt out and so frustrated. Here's what's going on. I'm a 24-year-old female and I work at a marketing agency with this coworker who I will call Rachel for the sake of the story. We started around the same time and we were pretty friendly until last month. We were both working on separate campaigns for different clients. I had this idea for a social media strategy that involved partnering with local businesses. I mentioned it to Rachel during lunch and she seemed interested. Well, 2 weeks later, Rachel presents her idea to our boss and it's literally the exact same strategy I told her about. She got praised for being innovative and got assigned to a bigger client because of it. I confronted her privately and she just said that great minds think alike and that she came up with it independently. I know that's BS because I had already started researching local businesses before I even told her. Now she's working on this huge project with tight deadlines and keeps asking me to help her with research and brainstorming. She says that we're a team and we should help each other out. But I told her I'm too busy with my own work to help. She's been struggling and our boss asked me why I'm not being more collaborative and I just said I have my own deadlines to meet. Well, she's been passive aggressive ever since then and told other people I'm being uncooperative. But why should I help someone who stole my idea? So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I really just don't know what to do. Oh man, I don't blame you for a second. The second someone steals my idea and tries to pass it off as their own is the second I no longer want anything to do with them. It is so frustrating. And it's always the same type of person. The one that's always a leech for good ideas but never comes up with anything on their own. Which is exactly why they're struggling. Like, look at them. They're like, hey, by the way, can you help me out? Let's brainstorm. We're working together. And it's like, why? So you can take credit for that as well? So truly, I don't blame you for a second for shutting her down and saying, no, I'm not going to help you, because if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for pounding on my neighbor's gate until they move their car? Because they literally were ignoring me on purpose just to avoid moving anything around. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm moving into a townhouse, but I have some weeks of overlap with my old rental for a little bit, so I've been between the two places and not at the townhouse all the time. Well, because of this, my neighbor decided this meant that he could park his extra car in my spot. I arrived one night at around 8:30 p.m. to find him parked in my assigned spot. I left a note on the windshield and I parked on the street overnight. By mid-afternoon the next day, the car was still in my spot, so I went and I knocked on his gate. I could see him and his wife inside and the wife was right next to the door, but they just ignored me. I went back 3 times to knock and they just kept ignoring me. I even tried to call the tow truck, but no one would tow from a private lot. The third time, I just pounded on the gate incessantly, and I shouted that I knew they could see me until they answered. But that time I was pretty heated and I said, move your car and don't park in my spot ever again. Well, the guy did move his car, but there was no apology and just a big eye roll. This is the first time that I met them, by the way, and I worry that I came in too hot and I ruined the neighbor relationship. I also wasn't that frustrated until they ignored me while I knocked, but that just completely pissed me off, and I kind of lost my cool. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I think I may have gone a little bit overboard. Okay, honestly, these people suck. I would have done the exact same thing, dude. They literally were ignoring you, dude. Like, that is so frustrating. It's one thing to be like, oh yeah, they said some nasty things and they treated me really badly, but for them to ignore you and pretend like you don't even exist when you're blatantly banging on their gate, like, that is so rude. And in my opinion, I think that's way worse. So yeah, these people were giant pieces of crap and you should have not had to deal with that at all. My former tenants burned down my garage in a way that made it completely uninhabitable, forcing me to redo this house from the ground up just to make it habitable. Here's what happened. So I had been renting a home to a family for about 8 years. I rented through an agency, so I tried to be as hands-off as possible, but I still helped out when I could. Any major appliance breakdowns or issues were addressed as quickly as I could. Now, I also would like to believe that what goes around comes around, both the good and bad alike. But these people had some interesting problems though. At one point, the stove broke and would only go on high, which is not a big deal to fix, maybe $80 in parts. But the thing is, they didn't tell me about it. Instead, they decided to leave oil in a pan and walked away to fold laundry. The grease then caught fire and destroyed the microwave and left smoke damage. And yes, I was very pissed off, but things happen, so I just let it slide. About 13 months ago, they sent me a text message saying there was a fire, it's bad. Well, the garage was totally destroyed. The fire investigator said a cigarette likely started the blaze since it was tossed into a pile of trash. But the tenants didn't even know the house was on fire because, get this, they removed the batteries from all the smoke detectors because they wouldn't stop beeping. Well, obviously they had to leave since the house was uninhabitable. We didn't straight up evict them, they did it to themselves. My rental agency never did a final walkthrough and never collected their keys. Well, the house has been under restoration ever since. It's been about $90,000 in insurance claims, and now my premium has quadrupled. Now, in an effort to make it presentable again, my family and I have been painting and replacing the needed items. It turns out their teenage son let him into the house at some point and actually actually kicked in some walls and carved his name into about 20 places in the house. There were many other things, but I'm trying to keep this brief. Now, as for the revenge, this weekend I was in the attic replacing bathroom vents. When I went into the attic, I found 3 boxes stored away. One of them has an NES with a dozen games or so, and the others were labeled memories with their son's name on it. They contained baby blankets, stuffed animals, and other trinkets. Well, I took special joy in placing the boxes out for bulk trash to pick up, and I smiled as I watched them get crushed by the trash truck. Because if you don't care about other people's stuff, then you cannot expect them to care about yours. Wow, I can't believe you allowed them to stay in your house after they literally caught your kitchen on fire. Like, if that's not foreshadowing of what's coming, I don't know what is, because that is crazy, dude. I would have immediately found some reason to get them out of there, because that's not just being stupid, that's like straight up negligence. Like, holy crap, I would lose my mind over that. But I love the way you handle this, and I love the revenge you got back on them, because one day they're gonna realize that's missing and not know what actually happened. An entitled Karen hits my car and drives off. But once I catch up to her, she literally tries to tell me that she didn't hit anything and that she didn't do anything wrong. Things got so bad that I literally had to tell her I was gonna call the cops if she didn't tell the truth. Here's what happened. Okay, to set the stage, I get sideswiped because this lady tried changing into my lane as she scrapes just underneath the gas cap. So I think to myself, whatever, we'll pull over and exchange information and that will be that. But no, she continues to drive. We get to a stoplight and I'm laying on my horn and she turns her entire head away from me with the window rolled up while I'm literally staring directly into her driver's side window. We do this for about 5 minutes until she pulls into a restaurant. I snap a picture of the license plate because she hasn't gotten out yet, and I walk up and I tell her, hey, you hit my car. She then looks flabbergasted. No, I didn't. If I hit something, I would know. I then tell her, I've been following you for 2 miles laying on my horn. If you can't hear me and you can't realize you hit someone on the road, then you shouldn't be driving. She then doubles down, but I just get fed up. I don't yell, but I get very mean until she finally gives me her insurance information after I threaten to call the cops. She then tells me, oh, I've never been in an accident ever. And I say to her, well, there's a first time for everything, and I walk away while she says sorry. So it really makes me wonder, why would you lie and then backtrack and then try to leave, only to then finally give me your insurance information and apologize? We could have handled this like adults if you just owned up to it, but instead you forced me to nearly call the police, all because you couldn't fathom that you actually made a mistake. Okay, honestly, I'm kind of surprised you didn't call the cops anyways and be like, oh yeah, this lady absolutely hit me and she's driving off. Because at that point, it really is a hit and run and she deserves to get in trouble. Like, if anything, this idiot absolutely got off easy, dude, like seriously. But either way, good for you for following her, because that is absolutely something that you need to take care of and not something you should ever let slide. Am I the jerk for refusing to be my friend's maid of honor after she picked someone else first who ended up quitting? Because right now, I just feel like a second option and I honestly just feel very hurt. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my friend Jessica and I have been friends since high school. And it's important to note that we always talked about being each other's maid of honor when we got married. Well, she got engaged 6 months ago and she actually asked her college roommate Mia to be her maid of honor instead. Now, I was hurt, but I didn't say anything because it's her choice. And instead, she made me a regular bridesmaid. Well, last week, Jessica calls me crying because Mia moved across the country for a job and can't do all the maid of honor duties. And this is where Jessica asked me if I would take over as the maid of honor. But when the question was posed, I told her no. I explained that she chose Mia over me initially, and I wasn't interested in being her second choice. She said she picked Mia because she's more organized and not because she likes her more. I then said that I understand, but I'm not comfortable stepping into the role now. She then got upset with me and said I'm being petty and ruining her wedding. Her fiance even texted me saying that I'm being immature. Some of our mutual friends think that I should just do it since we were close, but I feel like she made her choice and now has to deal with the consequences. So am I the jerk for not wanting to be the new maid of honor? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, honestly, I kind of see where you're coming from, but also I guarantee you this is going to change your relationship with Jessica from like the ground up. So honestly, I don't think you're the jerk for turning her down, but I do think you got to be ready for the consequences, which is something that Jessica also has to deal with as well. Jessica could have called you and explained why she's going with Mia, but instead she just kind of picked Mia and said, oh, you could be a bridesmaid instead. When it's like, wait a second, we've been best friends for a long time, and now you're going to turn your back on what we agreed upon? And no, you should not be like held hostage to any kind of crap you say in high school. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if the original poster and their friend Jessica really are as good of friends as they're saying, then this really should have been discussed in detail. Like, I just don't understand why it wasn't. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk for turning it down, but like I said earlier, this is absolutely going to change everything in your friendship. And I think regardless of what you do, you kind of have to be ready for some kind of fallout. An entitled Karen spills her beer all over my wife's feet while we're at a concert. But instead of owning up to it and admitting she was wrong, she decided to turn around and pretend like like it didn't happen. So I got some revenge by literally pouring an entire cup of beer all over her seat, forcing her to sit in wet beer the entire show, leaving her entire lower body absolutely soaked. Here's what happened. So we were at the recent Wu-Tang Clan show at Madison Square Garden the other night, and this small group of people in front of us seemed to be having a great time. It was an odd pairing of two middle-aged folks and what I'm assuming was their 30-something-year-old daughter. Honestly, I'm not really sure. Anyways, you could tell that she was a type, taking selfie videos every 5 minutes, and had no idea why she was there other than to party, which to be fair, that's fine, and I don't really care if people do it regardless of how cringy I find it. But she was flailing herself around and dancing like she was next to Oracle of Delphi, and this is where we had a problem. She had set a large beer cup on her seat, and my wife's seat was right behind hers. Well, about 1 minute after she set it there, she did one of her prophecy reading maneuvers and actually knocked the beer over backwards onto my wife's feet and filling one of her shoes partially. It also splashed over onto one of my buddies sitting in the row on the other side of my wife's seat. This woman child looked back at me and my wife in horror for 1 second, realized that she messed up, and then decided that she was going to go on about her business and ignore the issue completely. She did not apologize, she did not acknowledge it, she just kept on going. And this was the moment that upset me the most. Sure, getting a beer down your shoe sucks, but what really sucks is when the person who does it has absolutely no remorse for what they had done, accident or not, and just chooses not to apologize. So I did what any normal person would do in that situation. I picked up the beer cup, I removed the lid, and I dumped it all over her seat, and a small amount over the front of her feet as well. She looked back for a brief second when her feet got wet, and we met our eyes, as I was doing my best customer service style smile for her while holding the now empty beer cup over her seat. She quickly looked away and continued her dancing, choosing to continue to ignore the situation. Now the best part was her knowing she couldn't sit down, but also not wanting to tell the two that she was with about what had happened, because she had already accepted mentally that she wasn't going to admit fault. So she stood there awkwardly when the other two sat down, and after a minute, the guy pulled her down into her seat after she was hesitating for so long. The beer was oozing out of the cushion the second she sat down, and she convulsed and writhed around in the beer chair for a minute while being held into it by her male companion, all before standing up with a completely soaked butt full of beer. Her pants were wet from the belt line down past her knees. She continued to get pulled down into her seat by the guy multiple other times before the show ended. Now, I don't really think I've had a small petty revenge work out so well in my favor before, so to be completely honest, it was quite thrilling. Thankfully, I was able to put a smile on my wife's face after she saw her stand back up the first time, because this idiot absolutely deserved it. Oh man, this lady deserved it. This wasn't even petty revenge, this was so needed. This lady literally knocked her beer all over you guys, and instead of being like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, or even something similar, she decides to be like, oh yeah, this isn't happening, and just continues dancing. It's like, dude, what are you doing? At least show some level of common courtesy. Don't sit there and be like, oh yeah, this is not happening, nothing to worry about here. So in my opinion, the fact that you emptied your beer cup all over her seat was completely necessary, because this Karen, in my opinion, got exactly what she deserved.
If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories.
Am I the jerk for refusing to keep helping out my mom after I was pushed out of my job when she sold the company? Because right now she's saying that I owe her simply because I'm her daughter, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, I was working in my mom's office for 7 years, managing everything and also helping my mom with anything written down, as she's not native to the country we live and worked at together. That would mean writing papers, correcting her grammar, etc., so that she would maintain a professional outlook to the outside world. And this is nothing much of work, honestly, especially when it came to writing, as I was born and raised here. I know it's not easy for an immigrant to adapt to a new culture and still be successful in her career. It's been over 30 years now for her, and she's basically fluent speaking, went to become a business owner, and managed to build a house, which can be very expensive in the area we live in. A couple of months ago, she sold her business but stayed there as an employed CEO. The new owner decided that I was not needed anymore, and for the sake of selling it, she went along with it. Meanwhile, I took over my dad's business, which was being abandoned for years due to his dementia, and I'm trying to build everything up from scratch while also taking care of him, as I live close by to him. My parents live separately, so she can't really see him every day due to the distance of her work and living environment, and also I'm the one in charge of family finances, taxes, etc. And this is for the both of them on top of all of this. But now my mom wants me to keep helping her writing papers and letters remotely. And you know what? I refused, pointing out that I'm no longer part of her workforce and that I have a lot of other obligations to attend to. She keeps getting angry at me, telling me that it's my duty as her daughter to help her out, that she pays for the house with the money that she makes, and that I'm the one benefiting from it as I will inherit parts of it. So she says she's obliged to demand for me to partake, which means coming in on weekends to check her work for now, and then later on working from a laptop remotely to proofread everything. I told her that's a task that she now has to give somebody else, which she refuses partly to save her face, but also because she's not good at handling giving direct orders to others besides me, I guess. Also, this takes away from my free time, not to mention having to adapt to their new software and network environment, which by the way, I'm not even getting paid for. So am I the jerk for drawing a line? Because right now I'm honestly incredibly frustrated. Dude, your mom threw you under the bus the second she sold that company off. She literally sacrificed her kids so that she could sell the company and make a quick buck. But now she's realizing, oh crap, my daughter is the reason all of this worked. Like you literally were the quiet person in the background holding all of this together. And now that you're not doing that stuff that you used to do, she's now trying to guilt trip you into doing it as some kind of like, oh, you owe me. You're my daughter. You're gonna get part of my house and inheritance. And that is crazy toxic in my opinion. Like, dude, what's going on? At least in the previous setup, you were getting paid for your services. Now she wants you to do it for free on your free time on the weekends. Like, absolutely not. You better hire somebody else to do that because that is not okay with me. So to the original poster, no, you are definitely not the jerk because I would do the exact same thing. Today, I messed up by disclosing my coworker's salary to the wrong person, causing a butterfly effect of so many bad things happening to me that honestly is making me regret the next 3 weeks I have to work at this job. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm changing jobs and relocating in about 3 weeks. In my current position, I was working interim open positions for my company until a permanent full-time worker got hired, and my company didn't compensate me much for these roles. As a matter of fact, the boss paid me less than what was verbally agreed upon, and when I asked about it, she replied, "Oh, I said up to this certain amount," which was, by the way, a complete lie. She verbally told me something that was much higher, and this is all my fault for agreeing to all of this and for continuing to show up and give 100% of myself. Currently, all the roles have been filled, and I'm back to the role that I was initially hired for. Well, the new employee told me her salary. I didn't even have to ask her, and you know what? I was crushed, which then leads me to how I messed up. I vented to a coworker who had been there for over 20 years and has a higher rank than a new employee. I ranted about my salary and the new employees and how it was not fair, how the company sucks and all this other stuff. Well, the coworker slash supervisor I was ranting to became livid. She began to rant and vent that the new employee is making about $1 less than her. The coworker then tells me that she is calling the CEO so that she can vent to them and perhaps get a raise for herself since it's been 4 years. She also told me about how much of a better job I've done with these interim roles and that the company pretty much screwed me over. Now, I didn't know any of the following had happened, and quite frankly, I forgot about the salary thing, but all of this was about 2 weeks ago. But yesterday, in the meantime, the coworker I talked to proceeded to email the CEO and forward the message to the Human Resources Director. The Human Resources Director tells the boss, who then tells the new employee that a supervisor emailed the CEO upset about her salary. And because of this, the new employee confronts me about it. She doesn't know which supervisor emailed the CEO. She just knows that she told me about her salary and that she had her secretary handle paperwork with her salary information. And while I listened and denied everything, I felt so humiliated. I went to the coworker and I pretty much called her an idiot for exposing me, but her excuse was that she thought I had already relocated and would not be exposed. I told her that if anyone comes to me, I will deny we had a conversation. Well, next week she will be on a vacation for a month, and I have 3 weeks left of this job and I intend to complete them. But I really feel like a total jerk for getting emotional and venting to the wrong person. I do truly feel bad for the new employee, as it's not her fault because she really deserves her rate. But either way, that's a lesson learned because I will never make that mistake twice ever again. Okay, honestly, I think the whole situation where it's like, oh, you can't talk about your salary with anybody else, like that's incredibly stupid and really dumb. Because then you get situations like this. You have a supervisor who's only making $1 more than this like low-level entry employee. And I don't know about you, but that's really messed up. So honestly, I would not beat yourself up over this. Because if this new employee has any problems with you, they should take it up with the company they're working for and not with you. Because clearly they're not paying people fair, and that is absolutely not your fault. An entitled jerk manspreads in a way that literally takes up all my space, forcing me to get my spouse involved, who absolutely shuts him down. Here's what happened. Okay, so my wife and I are currently on a nearly 8-hour flight. We are in the premium section where you get somewhat larger seats and way more legroom. It's not as cushy as first class, but it's way better than economy. Now, I'm in my 30s, I'm 5'10", and I'm plus size. I'm always so careful to make sure I'm not taking anyone's space on a plane, even if it is uncomfortable. I'm supposed to be in a middle seat, but when I get there, there's already already a man sitting in the middle spot next to who I can only assume is his wife, so I just take the aisle seat, which is no big deal. I prefer that, to be completely honest. And my spouse was seated a couple of rows away. Now the man looks like he's probably 5'4", in his 70s, and has a small build. In a premium seat, he basically has a swimming pool of space to lounge around in. So tell me why this man, who took up my entire armrest and about 4 inches of my space, had his entire body pressed against mine, despite me seeing that he had room between him and his wife, and most egregious of all, put his one foot like 6 inches into my leg room. Also, at one point, he motioned like he was trying to get at his seatbelt, but just kind of ended up pinching at my upper thigh, but then didn't even put his seatbelt on. It's like gross. He also had AirPods in and seemed to be pretending to sleep. Plus, being a woman sitting alone means that I don't trust how he would react if I said something. My first step was to put my foot exactly on the border of my seat when he readjusted. That way, he couldn't take the space back. But you know what? He put his foot directly against mine, and every 20 seconds or so, he would bump his foot against mine again and again. Well, I started texting my spouse, and she does the coolest thing ever. She tells me she'll trade seats with me, and if he tries the same thing with her, she will start playing footsies with him. Now, here's the thing about my wife you really need to know. My wife is a 6'4" bearded trans woman. She has a voice like Johnny Cash, and to a creepy man in his 70s, this will absolutely read as male. So if this guy wants to intimidate a woman, he can do it to someone who will dish it out right back at them, but 5 times creepier. Well, I told her not to worry, and that I would put a blanket between us as it was no big deal. So the blanket goes down, his foot immediately retreats, but then this guy starts tapping his foot to the music, but he's doing it pressed up against my foot. So he's basically just rubbing my foot up and down with his foot. I then yanked my foot back instinctively because I felt like I was going to puke. I then sicked my wife on him, and bless her heart, she was absolutely willing to swap seats and put this guy in his place. Wow, this guy is a piece of garbage. First of all, your wife is awesome for wanting to switch seats and shut this guy down, because yes, he's being super creepy. He's getting a little too touchy-feely in my opinion, and that absolutely is not okay. So yeah, this guy was a creep, and I'm so sorry I had to deal with that because that was completely inappropriate. An entitled jerk tries to trick me one too many times into giving him free drinks. This guy even goes as far as saying that he's entitled to one by law, despite the fact that we only give out free drinks to actual customers. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I work in an amusement arcade, and we offer free drinks and snacks for paying customers. Some people try and abuse this by coming in, asking for something, and then they leave once they have it. Or we've also had supposed homeless people coming in, asking for drinks and snacks because they're homeless. When I first started and wasn't so savvy, a guy came in and asked for a coffee, and not knowing any better, I gave him a coffee, whereafter he just walked out immediately. The same guy came in this morning and went straight to the customer toilet where he spent 10 minutes, all before coming out and politely asking for a Coke. I say to him, sure, take a seat and I'll bring it over once you're playing. And I said that as I carried on filling in my paperwork. He then went out and sat down and just sat rubbing his eyes. 5 minutes later, he came back to the bar and said, my mouth is so dry. Can I have a Coke now, please? And he asked me with a big smile on his face. I said to him, well, sure, once you're playing. And I repeated this politely. The smile disappeared from his face as he said, I'm entitled to a drink by law. But I shot back at him and I said, no, you're not. They're for paying customers only. But he repeated himself, saying he's entitled by law to have one. But I just politely said back, no, you're definitely not. They're for playing customers and you haven't played yet. Start playing and you can have a drink. He then turned around and headed to the door, telling me to go F myself, and I followed him as I needed to unlock the door. He then turned before leaving and he said to me, why won't you let me have just one Coke? But I just responded by saying they're for customers only again. And he says to me, but I am a customer. But I just said to him, well, you came in and used the toilet and you haven't played a machine. So no, the refreshments are for playing customers only. He then called me a fat idiot and said once again that he's entitled to a drink by law. But I said to him, no problem, go ahead and find a cop and report me, all before closing the door. But the best part about this is that when I went to use the toilet myself, I found out that this upstanding citizen had peed all over the floor. And honestly, I'm not surprised by this behavior. Oh man, this guy was either homeless or drunk or somewhere in between, because this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Imagine going into a place and taking advantage of some guy who's new, only to then go in the next day and be like, oh, I deserve one. Why can't you give me a Coke just this one time? And it's like, oh, I don't know, buddy. Maybe it's because you stole a coffee yesterday and now you're trying to get a Coke from me. Like, people like this really get under my skin. Why can't you pay for the Coke like everybody else? Like, if you're playing the games and you're actually there for the right reasons, then sure, you can get it for free. But you're not doing that. You're literally just trying to cheat the system and take advantage of it. You're trying to steal without saying the word, oh yeah, I'm stealing. So honestly, good for you for the way you handled this, because this guy was an entitled piece of garbage. My idiotic company has a stupid travel policy that costs me way more money than it should have. So I decided to maliciously comply by returning the favor in a way that they will never figure out, costing them hundreds of dollars in the process. Here's how I did it. A few months ago, I had to travel for work. Some cost-saving measures had been implemented recently, and I was required to have a funding letter from the financial department so that they could allocate funds appropriately, even though my travel was authorized by my supervisor and required for the company business. And it's like, okay, I'll jump through some hoops, whatever. I get the funding letter and travel a couple of hours to my home away from home. Halfway through my trip, my work schedule opens up as I have a few days off, but I know I will be working more the following week. Since I'm only a few hours from home, I decide to check out of my hotel, drive home to spend the weekend with my family, then drive back the following week when I actually have work to do. This saves the company paying for a few days for the hotel and per diem, and I get time with my family. This is a win-win, right? Well, no, this is completely wrong. When I submit my travel claim to financial, it counts it as 2 separate trips. The problem is, I have one funding letter, which covers the dates of my travel but doesn't cover 2 trips, even though both trips are inside the travel window in the funding letter. This then blows up and takes about a month and a half to get sorted out, during which time I had to pay off my company credit card for the travel expenses incurred using my own funds. Eventually, the money was all properly allocated, and I got reimbursed for my interest-free loan to the company. But you know what? After that, I learned my lesson. Another trip comes up, and I am issued one funding letter. I drive up again and work a few days, and sure enough, my schedule opens up and I have some days off. But this time, instead of checking out of my hotel, I just leave, drive home, and I'm now sitting on my couch typing this while the company pays my per diem and pays for an empty hotel room. And you know what? I'm pretty sure the bean counters will get a raise for their fine work, because honestly, cheers to them, as they literally wasted a lot of money for no reason. Oh my god, this is so stupid. Like seriously, these people must love spending money. Why not just have it all just like in one package thing and not be like, oh, that's 2 separate trips, sorry. Like they're literally just making this entire thing way more difficult than they need to. So good for you for maliciously complying, because this travel policy is absolutely stupid. Today, I dealt with 2 entitled boomers who honestly were the absolute worst, as they were rude, loud, and incredibly aggressive, forcing me to shut them down by giving them the cold shoulder. Here's how I did it. Okay, so this happened about an hour ago, and I'm so glad I finally have a story I can share. For starters, I'm helping out a friend at his restaurant because he had to fire 4 employees back to back due to them stealing. And this is honestly no big deal, as I have some free time. Well, to start things out, the first boomer male comes storming up to me while my hands are full of margarita mix, saying to me, hello, are you gonna seat me or do I have to sit wherever I want? Now, I saw this man walk in literally 15 seconds ago and stand right in front of the please wait to be seated sign, so I told this first boomer, we'll be with you in a moment, go ahead and wait by the sign that says please wait to be seated. Boomer number 1 scoffs and waits by the sign, and I sat him very shortly afterwards, and then I moved on with my life. Well, 15 minutes later, I walked past his table, and I noticed that he had met up with a male boomer friend who is boomer number 2 in this story. As I walk past this table, boomer number 2 literally shouts at me, excuse me, sir, sir, which may to some extent seem normal, but not only is yelling inside a restaurant wild behavior, I'm also not a sir. I am a woman with a very obvious chest. So I made eye contact and I ignored him, because there's no way this man was talking to me. I then just walked past like I was suddenly deaf. I then walked past a few minutes later, and boomer number 2 starts hooting and hollering again, saying, hello, excuse me, sir, which was again promptly ignored because again, yelling inside is incredibly rude. After my second time ignoring these empty-headed boomers, they visibly started sulking in their seats. So I guess not being given the attention they are so clearly starving sucked the life right out of them, and hopefully taught them some kind of lesson about manners. Oh man, that's super cringy, man. Like, why would you yell in a restaurant like that? That doesn't make any sense to me, dude. Just wait your turn. This guy walked up 15 seconds in and is like, oh my god, do I have to be seated or do I sit down myself? And then the other guy's trying to be like, sir, come over here. And it's like, dude, this is obviously a woman we're talking to. Why are you being so aggressive and rude off rip? Like, this is not a good look, buddy. So honestly, I love the fact that you ignored them and kept on walking, because if they want to be rude, then congratulations, you get to ignore them and go about your day. 2 entitled Karens demand to know why there's hair in their sandwich that they bought, despite the fact that there literally is no hair in it, and instead it's just the way the food looks. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this situation happened the other day. It was my last table for the day before I got off at 4 o'clock, and at this table were the 2 entitled Karens of the story. Now honestly, things were fine. They ordered food and they ended up splitting a steak and cheese. I brought it out, and within a minute of it being on the table, one of the ladies stopped me. She said to me, there is a hair in this, with the other lady saying, yeah, there's definitely a hair. I look at the sandwich and I immediately recognize it as cheese, not hair. For anyone who knows their cheese, you'll know that provolone cheese on hot sandwiches, when they stretch thin enough, look remarkably like hair. I eat this sandwich all the time, so I'm certain that it is just cheese. I say to him, oh no, that's cheese. I have this sandwich often, and the cheese often does look like that sometimes. The second lady says to me, no, it's hair, and here's another one too. At this point, she's taken the pieces off and just handed them to me. And at that point, I definitely definitely could confirm that it was in fact cheese. I was even able to break it with the slightest touch, which I would not be able to do even with a stray hair unless you pull on it. So I say to them, ma'am, this is cheese. Provolone just gets like this. Lady number 1 says, that's definitely hair and it needs to be remade and checked for hair. I say to them, ma'am, no one blonde has worked here today in the entire bar, and all of the cooks have black hair, but they didn't care and they said it's definitely hair, even though it definitely wasn't. I even got the sandwich for myself later on and it was the same result. Even when we remade it, it had the same result. The worst part was that they were splitting the sandwich, but only she noticed it on her half. And since we can't just make half a sandwich, the cooks had to make a whole sandwich, so they basically got more than what they paid for. Now, the craziest part of all of this is that they tipped like 33%, which is like the most confusing thing that's ever happened to me in my life. Like, I looked you in the eyes and broke the customer service rule to tell you that you're wrong. Why are you tipping me that much money? I'm still blown away by all this because these people were incredibly confusing. Okay, honestly, someone made a really good point in the comment section by basically saying they did a 33% tip as like some kind of apology. Because yeah, these people are idiots. Sometimes provolone does that, and that's definitely not hair. Because what restaurant in their right mind would give out a sandwich full of blonde hair and nobody sees it? Like, that's crazy. That really is so stupid. So yeah, maybe this is a super confusing situation, but maybe they did mean well by being like, oh man, we messed up. We gave that server a hard time. Let's just tip them really well and get out of here and never talk about this ever again. Like, if I was in their shoes, I probably would have done the same thing because I'm super socially awkward and there's no way I'm ever going to confront that. So either way, enjoy your 33% tip because these people were completely wrong and gave you a hard time for literally no reason. And that, in my opinion, is super inappropriate. An entitled Karen gets turned away at a plasma donation center after her vitals and tests come back saying that it's not safe for her to donate. But as a result, this entitled Karen goes nuts, claiming that we're being racist by turning her away. And I'm simply blown away by the way this entitled Karen acted. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work at a plasma donation center in the United States. And for those of you who don't know, you get paid for donating plasma here. So our plasma centers tend to attract a lot of interesting characters, including people who feel that they are entitled to being paid. Now, let me get a few things straight. You are not entitled to get paid, nor is payment guaranteed. Plasma donation can be dangerous. If you are temporarily deferred for whatever reason, it is for your safety. And unlike some store, we don't have to put up with your BS. If you yell and scream at us and throw a tantrum, we can and will ban you for life. Now, this lady, who is the Karen of the story that we encountered, did not understand any of the above rules. She didn't understand anything about anything and chose to be angry about it instead of listening to what we told her. Now, this Karen was being screened by my coworker. Screening is where we check people's vitals and take a blood sample, and all of these measurements have an acceptable range where it is safe to donate. Some vitals can be taken exactly once. Any more and it would be considered testing by compliance. So if your vitals are still out of range after the retake, well, tough cookies, come back tomorrow. So my coworker retook Karen's vitals and said to her, I'm sorry ma'am, this measurement is still out of range. You'll have to try again tomorrow. Now, this entitled Karen did not like that. She said to my coworker, what? That is crazy. I'll miss out on the promotion. And for reference, our center has a promotion for new donors. The coworker says, I know, I'm so sorry. But Karen says, can't you take the measurement again? My coworker then says to her, unfortunately, no. We can only take this measurement twice. To which the Karen says, what? That's crazy. Why not? And even though my coworker tried to explain that these were the rules and we have to follow them, Karen refused to understand. In fact, even going as far as like measuring different things that we were looking at to try and figure out what it is that was way too high. The entitled Karen then said, but I saw the other day that one of your coworkers let a man donate when he was 2 points below his measurements. My coworker then said, I don't know anything about that. We have to follow the rules. Well, this entitled Karen then said, I want to talk to who's in charge right now in private. Now, before my manager arrived to talk to her, this woman actually got on the phone to talk crap about us to one of her friends. She then claimed that the other day, they let a white man go through when he was 2 points below. Yes, you heard that right. She somehow made it about race. Now, here's the thing. We don't defer people based on race. We defer people based on whether or not they're within the safe range of measurement. If we let anyone through who was out of range and they had a reaction, they could easily sue the pants off us. My manager arrived and took her into a private room to talk, and shocker, she explained exactly the same thing my coworker did. We only take this measurement twice and you will have to come back tomorrow. Well, when the Karen demanded why the man from the other day before was let through when he was 2 points low, my manager simply reiterated, ma'am, we do not let anyone through with an out of range measurement. This Karen then looked shocked. She said to my manager, are you calling me a liar? To which my manager said, I think you may have misunderstood or misheard what was going on. The medical historian was probably warning him that the measurement was 2 points away from being too low. We let people know when a measurement is close to being too low so that they can prevent themselves from actually being too low next time. Do you understand? Now, despite claiming that she understood, the Karen immediately got back on their phone with her friend and said, "I don't understand, this is crazy," and then she left in a huff. Now, unfortunately, despite myself and all of my other coworkers begging my manager to ban this Karen, she has not been banned. But know this, if you donated plasma recently and the story sounds a little too familiar, you better be on your best behavior the next time you come in, because not every manager is as kind. We do not have to put up with your BS for a single second. Oh man, I love this story so much because, like, honestly, why are you gonna act like that? The numbers are not gonna lie, and these people are not gonna, like, pull something and be like, oh yeah, we're doing this based on race. Like, that's crazy and super dumb, man. So good for you guys for, like, the way you handled this, because the way this Karen was acting was super inappropriate.
If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not giving my parents a loan for their new restaurant? As I really just don't think they'll ever pay me back if I do give them money. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I need some thoughts on this because there's a lot of backstory to go through. I've been working since I was 14 years old and had an account with my mom where all the money was deposited. My parents got their first house when I was 18 and they used my money for the down payment without asking me or letting me know until I asked about that money closer to college. Now, I thought it would be used for my college. At that time, I didn't have a car or my own phone since they were very strict. I'm now in my mid-20s and I've since moved out with my boyfriend, saving up to get our own house. I only have a few $1,000s saved up since I got too spend happy with the financial freedom. I also furnished my room, got a car and a phone, and I have some cats. Also, I've got college debt, so there's that as well. My parents asked me recently for a loan from my saved up money, and while I was on the fence about it, ultimately I declined to help them out. They also acted very desperate, like they needed it urgently. They claimed they would pay me back, but I just don't trust them. They also tried every trick in the book, saying that I owe them and that they raised me, while also sprinkling in some guilt tripping and basically the whole 9 yards. Ever since then, they haven't contacted me, and I've definitely not contacted them either. So seriously, am I in the wrong for this? Was I the jerk for not giving them money? What should I do? Okay, honestly, maybe this is a hot take, but no, you're not the jerk. Your parents have already proven to not be trustworthy by taking your money as a kid and using that for a down payment. Like, dude, what's going on right now? That sucks, dude. You literally worked for that money and they stole it. They used it on something you did not give them permission to use it on. You were going to use that for college and they step in and they're like, oh yeah, sorry, we're going to use it for our house instead. Like, screw that. That's so inappropriate. So no, in my opinion, they absolutely have lost the right to have any kind of like money from you because they're clearly not trustworthy and it seems like they're just trying to get a quick buck out of you, and that is really not fair. My younger brother is insanely jealous of me, constantly insulting me and being aggressive and showing some absolute resentment towards me as a person. And I'm honestly at a point where I just don't know how to repair this relationship because right now I feel incredibly lost. Here's what's going on. My family immigrated to the United States in 2009. I was around 4 or 5 years old at the time, and my youngest brother was born here. I grew up in poverty during those early years, but my brother was raised in a more financially stable environment. Because of this, I've always had to hustle and work hard chasing the American dream, if you will, while he, on the other hand, didn't experience the same pressures. Over the last several years, however, I've noticed troubling patterns in his behavior. He's becoming increasingly competitive, insecure, and hostile, going out of his way to try and one-up me in everything. He refuses to share even the smallest things like food, even though I always bring or buy him things when I go out. I've tried to be the caring older brother, giving him gifts, giving him rides, and including him in my life even when he's rude. But in return, I get insults, aggression, and resentment. And honestly, I get nothing. Not a single gift, a card, or anything. There have even been physical altercations. One time he initiated a fist fight while I was peacefully working on my laptop, just because he felt compared to me. He constantly tries to tear me down, especially when I'm in the spotlight, which unfortunately happens a lot since I've always tried to show love and care to others, and people respond positively to that. He sees it as competition, not kindness. The family loves me when I visit because I believe every heart responds to tender love. The emotional imbalance is especially frustrating because my parents often tell me I'm doing too much for him, and it's heartbreaking to know he wouldn't do the same for me. I've been dealing with this dynamic for the past 2 years. I've done everything I can to support him, but the bitterness hasn't gone away. I suspect it may come from deep-rooted jealousy or self-esteem issues, but it doesn't make the situation any easier. Ironically, despite his resentment, he is often the one who gets more from our parents materially. For instance, he got a $3,000 e-bike recently, while my most expensive birthday gift was a PS5, which I'm so thankful for. And honestly, shout out to my parents for making it a surprise. So would anyone out there have any idea about this? How do I maintain or repair a sibling relationship when it feels completely one-sided? At what point do you stop giving so much even when it's family? And how do you protect your peace in situations like this? I want to either repair this relationship with my brother so it is less one-sided,
decided, or learn how to emotionally detach from living in the same home, because right now I don't know what to do. Yeah, your brother's being incredibly stupid right now. For reference, the original poster is 21 years old and their brother's 15, but my god, that is definitely old enough to know better than to treat someone like that. He is disrespectful all the time and still gets these amazing gifts on a consistent basis from the parents. And honestly, in my opinion, the second someone shows me how they actually are, I'm gonna believe them. I'm gonna say, okay, this is how you really feel, and I'm not gonna try and convince myself otherwise. So if this guy's aggressively insulting you and he's showing resentment, then in my opinion, that's how he actually feels about you. This isn't some facade that needs to be healed. This is actually how your brother feels. And just like anybody else who would treat you that way, if I was in your shoes, I would cut them off. I would personally say, I'm sorry, but I can't help you out anymore. You're being really aggressive and rude to me, and I don't appreciate that. Because guess what? You don't deserve that. This kind of behavior should absolutely slam the door shut on anything you have to offer him. Because in my opinion, that is the only way to make this stop, whether he likes it or not. Am I the jerk for not letting my roommate use my Nintendo Switch, as he literally started playing on it without my permission? Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm a 21-year-old male and I live with my roommate, who we will call Dave, in a college apartment. I bought a Nintendo Switch last month with money from my part-time job. It cost me $300 and I was really excited about it. Now Dave doesn't have a job and his parents send him money for rent and food. He's always borrowing things from me and never asked permission first. In fact, last week I caught him using my laptop without asking me first. So yesterday I come home from work and Dave is playing on my Switch. I was kind of annoyed and I told him to ask me next time before using my stuff. But he just said to me, chill dude, it's just a gaming console. But I said to him, yeah, and it's my game console that I paid for. He then got defensive and said that I was being selfish since we're roommates and we should share everything apparently. But I told him if he wants to play video games, he can buy his own console. After I said this, he's now giving me the silent treatment and told our mutual friends that I'm being a jerk over something stupid. A couple of them even said that I should just let him use it since we live together. So seriously, am I being unreasonable here? I feel like I should get to decide who uses my expensive electronics, because at this point, I'm seriously pissed off. No, you're not the jerk at all. This guy is completely selfish. He clearly is one of those people who just uses anything in front of him and asks for forgiveness later and doesn't even consider the person he's taking from. Like if I was in your shoes, I would absolutely be locking that console down, because what begins as him just like borrowing the console to play on it quickly becomes him being like, oh no, this is my game console, I own it. And then you don't see it ever again. Like that easily could happen. And I also just really hate this guy's attitude. Like seriously, can we talk about that for a second? He's so dismissive and just so nonchalant about this, even though it's clearly a big deal to the original poster, and I think it is too. So no, you're not the jerk for telling him this, and honestly, I hope it gets better sooner than later, because it sounds like your roommate's incredibly selfish and this is going to be a reoccurring problem. Am I the jerk for no longer wanting to be responsible for my sister and her kids after I've spent several years supporting them and honestly just trying to be there for them? Because as of right now, I'm burnt out and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I lived with them for years throughout her and her husband's toxic and awful marriage. I mainly stayed to protect the kids and do what I could to protect them from seeing the awful things that were going on, namely the verbal, emotional, financial, and sometimes physical mistreatment. After living separately, I moved back in with them to ease the financial burden on all of us, with full intentions on repairing mistakes made in my 20s and stacking up money. Well, 1 month in, the husband abandoned us to go halfway across the country to Florida and took their vehicle with him. I didn't have a car at the time, and part of my repair plan was trying to get another one. Once he left, my sister and I had to figure out how to pay all the bills and provide for the kids, swap off on childcare, and also find rides to work. And this was extremely exhausting. But 6 months later, this guy came back, and he told her that we're all going to Florida and that we're gonna live there instead, claiming that things would get better there. But I begged her, please don't do this. We had finally started to gain a little ground where we were, and we were getting somewhere and surviving peacefully. But she didn't listen, and because of the financial wreck I was still in, I really had no choice but to go with them. Well, we were homeless for 7 months. We lived out of a hotel for the last half of it, scraping by on nickels and dimes. But thankfully, the husband finally listened when we suggested going back to North Carolina near my family where I'm from. And when we get there, we had a house within a week, despite spending months trying to tell him that we should do this, but to no avail. So I restart trying to make a plan for myself to be independent and be able to support myself. All the bills are split into thirds, and I got a really good job and started to see a light at the end of the tunnel. And then at the end of April, early May, her husband once again fell into his old patterns, only this time they strayed majorly into the physical aspect of things. Well, long story short, me, my sister, and the kids all hid at my family's house while she got a restraining order. We then had to leave our house for good because of the horrible landlord and the house problems that were ignored. And now us minus the husband are living at my parents' house. He won't send any money, he won't pay anything, anything and has seen his kids maybe twice since May, which now leaves me stuck financially supporting myself, my sister, and her kids because my sister doesn't have a full-time job since she's been a stay-at-home mom. For nearly 5 years, I've been advising her to leave the relationship or at the very least insist on working full-time just so she could never allow herself to be financially dependent on him again. But here's the thing, she has consistently decided not to listen to me. Her husband destroyed their credit and we can't get approved for any rentals because of that. I want to just leave and get my own place, which I could easily do, and my parents are telling me it's more responsibility than theirs to support her and basically forbidding me to leave when I've been doing the supporting for way longer than I should have. They have helped us over the years, but my stupid idiot self just kept staying in the situation because I would feel like a horrible person for abandoning not only her, but especially my 3 younger nephews who are all about 5 years old. I know the obvious choice is to take care of myself, but it makes me feel extremely guilty and like I'm abandoning them just like their dad did, and I don't know how to get past that. Another reason I can't make the leap is because my family will not help me in any way, shape, or form if it's needed in the future, and I'm really scared of having zero support system and being completely on my own. So honestly, would I be the jerk for no longer wanting to be responsible for this? Because at this point, I'm so frustrated. Okay, first of all, this is some heavy stuff. I'm so sorry you're going through this. It's clear you've had a really rough pass in life, and this is just not fair for you. But honestly, I think you said it yourself. You know the right decision, and you know what you want to do. And from the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like you're happy living with your sister any longer. Now, I do need to say that I think there's a big distinction between the husband leaving and you leaving, because the husband absolutely is a piece of garbage for doing so, whereas if you left, I don't think it would be for the same reasons at all. You're not walking out on the family, you're trying to start your own family. You're literally trying to live your life, and you can't do that strapped to your sister all the time. So honestly, I don't think you would be the jerk at all for walking away and trying to set up your own life, because I think you deserve to have your own life and have your own peace. My best friend's fiance grabbed my butt out of nowhere, and now I'm considering not showing up to their wedding, even though I'm involved in nearly every aspect of the planning process. Here's what's going on. So my best friend is supposed to be getting married to her boyfriend of 7 years in November of this year. Since I have worked in event planning and have a wholesale number, I've been helping them with large amounts of tasks for the wedding, namely the bachelorette party planning, the party favors, the wholesale flowers, making a wedding piñata, their guest book, the cake, etc. Because I'm an artist and was so excited for their wedding, I took on a lot of tasks that they would have otherwise had to farm out and pay for separately. I went to visit last week as I was in town for a separate event, and they let me crash in their apartment so we could spend more time together. I had a great visit with my friends while in town, but had to stay an extra day than planned due to weather making it unsafe to drive. Because of this, her fiance offered to take me to breakfast that morning at 9 o'clock, which would be before I got on the road as my best friend was already at work. Now, for a bit of background, my best friend goes to work at 6 o'clock in the morning every single day, and her fiance works from home. Anyways, I said bye to my friend when she left for work, and then I slept in until 9 o'clock in the morning. After waking up, her fiance immediately started acting very strange. He was hanging out in his underwear, and he insisted I pick out clothing for him to wear that day. Now, I have a history of distrusting men due to previous relationships, and I do still have some PTSD, especially when it comes to my personal space and boundaries. So at first, I figured I was just overreacting. He then cornered me in the closet, still in his underwear, and while it was extremely strange, I just removed myself from the situation by just quickly slipping past him, being sure not to make any physical contact. After that, he kept weirdly following me around the apartment as I deflated the air mattress I had slept on, always weirdly standing over me. It was freaking me out enough that I just stopped and insisted we head to breakfast. Now, breakfast was normal, and we talked all about the wedding and his plans to surprise my best friend with her wedding ring. He then drove us back to the apartment, and we loaded up my things into the car. I went back to grab my last few things from the house, and that's when it got really weird. He kept insisting that I stay longer and hang out. I questioned him, asking if he was just bored or why he would want me to stay, reiterating that I was anxious about getting home as I was supposed to leave the day before. He started at 2 hours and then 1 more hour, and then just asked me if I would stay until about 11:15. I looked past him and it was like 10:45, so I asked him what he would want me to stay to do for like 30 minutes. He then said anything you want with a super creepy smirk. Well, that sent up many red flags, and I grabbed my last stuff and I headed towards the door of their apartment. He sounded kind of offended and asked if I was going to leave without saying goodbye. Now, I faltered as I didn't want to offend my best friend's person, so I turned back around and I said, of course not, and he went in for a hug, which I didn't pull away from, but as soon as his arms were around me, his hand went right to my butt and he patted it twice. When I began to pull away because that made me incredibly uncomfortable, he fully grabbed my left butt cheek and squeezed it. I went into flight mode and I made my way to the door again. Well, he beat me there and he put his hand on the top of the door, preventing me from opening it. He then repeated, "You're not going to tell tell her, are you?" several times until I was finally able to get the door open and leave. My best friend then called me as I pulled out of their apartment complex because he texted her that I had just left. Now, I've been kind of in shock since it all happened and made an appointment with my therapist and talked through it just a little bit. She thinks he's trying to get out of the marriage, but it all seems to be falling on deaf ears for my best friend. She can't seem to believe that he'd behave like that, and after talking with her more, it seems like he's gaslighting her into thinking that it was just a misunderstanding. I talked to my other best friend from that area, and apparently my best friend's fiance did a similar thing to her at a house party a few months back. I've known my other best friend and her fiance for 7 years, and even I find it hard to believe that he behaved like that, as I've never seen any warning signs before. But with that, I need to know if I'm overreacting. Her bridal shower and bachelorette are set to take place in August, which is less than a month away, and I'm just not sure if I can take part in the festivities after what happened to me. I'm seeking any advice on what I should do, or if I'm the jerk for boycotting the entirety of their wedding. If I do decide to not partake, does anyone have any advice on how to tell her about it, or what I should say? Since I was taking on such a big role in the preparation and the wedding planning, I still feel like a jerk, and it feels like I'm going to lose one of my best college friends. I'm honestly feeling really lost, and I seriously don't know what to do. Holy crap, no, you are not overreacting. Your best friend's fiance did something to you that was completely inappropriate and unacceptable. There's never a situation where this is okay, and honestly, this is a deal breaker in my opinion. And yeah, you put a lot of work into this wedding, and you've done a lot of the planning, but my god, this guy is worse than a piece of crap. He is someone who clearly targets women and treats them like this, and somehow still gets away with it. And you're just one of many girls, probably besides your other friend, that have been touched inappropriately by this weirdo. So no, you're not the jerk here, and you're definitely not overreacting. Not showing up and saying, "I'm not going to be a part of this," and then explaining why to anybody asking, is absolutely within your right. And sure, you might lose a friend over this, but honestly, I would not want to be friends with someone who excuses this kind of behavior, especially when you're not the first woman he's done this to. My brother quit his job overnight without any kind of backup plan in the slightest, and now he expects my mom to support him while he refuses to get a job. And at this point, I'm so burnt out that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my brother is 32 years old. He had a dead-end night shift job, which I know was impacting his mental health, but this man just quit without any plans and now fully expects my mother to support him and give him money. He also lives with her, and I live in a different country. Now, he doesn't want to look for another job for 6 months so that he can focus on his health, and this is because he has ballooned to over 400 pounds. Naturally, he expects my mother to plan out all his healthy meals for him because he can't cook and doesn't even go along with her to get groceries. My mother is currently in a financial black hole and is terrible with money. She's also possibly in the middle of an elaborate scam, which is an entirely different story altogether. Now, all of this is something my brother knows, and yet, even still, he quit his job. I helped them both out financially for years, but stopped last year because I was getting horrifically burnt out doing 3 part-time jobs while also working on my PhD. My mother kept lying to me about where the money I sent was going and constantly kept asking for more. So I made the hardest decision of my life, and I stopped financially supporting them because my lifestyle had become unsustainable. I still buy my mother's medication directly through the pharmacy, but my brother clearly resents me cutting them off. And so does my mother, for the record, but she shows it less and doesn't take it out on me, at least. I had an argument with my brother when I called him yesterday, and I begged him to please find some work so that he can help out our mother just a little bit. He then got angry and said, "Well, now I'm not going to look for a job for 1 year. The more you badger me, the more I'll delay. What are you going to do about it?" And then, to top it all off, he said to me, "I know you're so worried about us. Why don't you take another trip to Japan, huh?" Now, for reference, I saved for this trip for 5 years, since like 2020, and finally I was able to go this year. So clearly he resents that too. Honestly, this comment made me cry, and I hung up soon afterwards. I'm honestly so tired, and I just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, in my opinion, giving more money is not going to solve anything, and I think if I was in your shoes, I would cut them off and say, "I'm sorry, but I can't keep doing this." I would then absolutely explain to my mom and be like, "Look, this guy's playing all of us. He's refusing to get a job. Like, this is not working for anybody. Like, I'm really surprised he even still lives in that house. I know if I tried to pull that with my mom, she would kick me out immediately. Like, that's never gonna happen." So I completely understand where you're coming from, and I don't blame you for the decision you made, because this kind of behavior is completely toxic. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for sitting in first class while my mom sat in economy? Because she's saying that I should have switched my seats with her so that she could sit up there and I sit in the back. And now that the entire family is turned against me and is saying I'm the jerk for not giving up my seat, I'm honestly starting to question everything, and I now now just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 26-year-old male, and I just got back from a really long work trip. I've been traveling a lot lately, barely sleeping, and overall, I've just been completely drained. So for once, I said screw it, and I just used my points to upgrade to first class. And I've never flown first class before. Now, my mom happened to be flying the same route because we were both heading to a family thing. She booked her ticket separate from mine, and she was in just basic economy. Now, at the time, I didn't think it was a big deal. And at the gate, I told her, hey, just so you know, I'll see you when we land. I'm sitting up front. And when I said that, she looked at me like I had taken out her dog. She asked if I was serious and then said, you're really gonna let your own mother sit in the back while you relax in first class? And I thought she was kidding, but apparently she wasn't. She told me I was being selfish, ungrateful, and disrespectful, that she raised me better than this. And I said, Mom, I love you, but I paid for the seat with my own money and I'm exhausted. I just want one flight where I'm not sandwiched between two strangers. But at this point, she is now very pissed off. She told my aunt, who told my cousins, and now half the family is calling me a jerk for not giving her my seat. And honestly, I don't think I did anything wrong, but now I feel really weird about it. So yeah, am I the jerk for not switching? Because right now things are incredibly messy. No, you're not the jerk. This is so stupid. These people really expect you to give up that seat that you paid for? Like really? That is so dumb. If she wanted a first class seat, then she should have, I don't know, bought one herself. And why should you give it up? Like seriously, it's not like she was gonna be sitting next to you anyways. She is literally sitting in economy and she bought her ticket separate from you. Like dude, what is she complaining about? And to any family members who are trying to be like, wow, you're a jerk for not giving up your seat. Like this is so stupid. Like if they really feel that way, then upgrade her seats when she flies back home. Like at that point, just put your money where your mouth is. Because your mom clearly only cared about getting that first class seat, and she did not care about your comfort in the slightest. An entitled Karen falsely claims that I hit her car with my shopping cart, which conveniently enough allowed me the opportunity to put her in her place in a way that I'm sure she will never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was emptying my grocery cart into my car when out of nowhere an entitled Karen approaches. I could tell she wanted to say something to me, and I assumed I was in her way, so I apologized and I moved aside to give her more room. As she approached, she said out loud, "Is your shopping cart hitting my car? Did you just hit my car?" And for reference, it was a new Dodge Charger. So I responded by saying, "No, of course not. I'm not even touching it." But instead of listening to me, she doubled down and accused me even further. So I said to her, "I would never hit someone else's car." So she responded back by saying, "Well, it really looked like you did." So I just said, "Okay," and I continued loading my car with my groceries. Now I audibly chuckled a bit over how she acted while I was loading. No introduction, no apology, just a bunch of accusations. And this is likely because my car is noticeably old, and I'm wearing my caregiver clothing, which are just junk clothes. I put my cart back, and as I'm walking back to my car, I said to her in my sweetest caregiver voice that she should have a great day, and I hope she enjoys her wonderful, expensive Charger. I then got into my car, and as I pulled out, I looked over to her one more time, and that's where I noticed her dog was in the car as she was about to open her car door. The car was not running, and there were no windows cracked, and it was 90 degrees outside. So in my sweetest caregiver voice again, I said softly to her, "And you left your dog in your car on a hot day. Shame on you." I then ignored her after that, and I left, but I could hear her being all upset and yelling something at me, which honestly was incredibly satisfying, especially after the way she treated me. Oh wow, this Karen's just that kind of person. She's not only a terrible person for trying to accuse you of things that didn't happen, but she also left her dog in the car while it was not running. Like, dude, this lady's an idiot. She could have killed her dog. Like, what a moron. So good for you for making her feel probably incredibly stupid, because from the sounds of it, she absolutely deserved it. Am I the jerk for not paying for my roommate's groceries after she literally spent all of her food money on clothing and shoes? Because right now she's saying that I'm discriminating against her all because I have more money and that I could easily help her out and that this is what friends do, leaving me wondering if I really am the jerk in this scenario. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my roommate and I have been living together for 8 months. We split rent and utilities, but buy our own food and personal stuff. Last week, my roommate, who we will call Anna, came home with a bunch of new clothes and shoes. She was showing them off and mentioned she got everything on sale, but still spent like $300. Now, I didn't think much of it at the time, but then yesterday, she asked if she could borrow some of my food because she was running low. I said sure, thinking that she meant like a few things, but when I got home from work, she had eaten almost all of my leftovers and made dinner using a bunch of my ingredients. When I asked her about it, she said she didn't have money for groceries this week because she spent too much on clothing. She even said that she would pay me back when she gets paid next Friday. Now, I was annoyed, but figured it was just a one-time thing. But then today, she asked if I could spot her for groceries this week. She said she would pay me back, but she really needs food and I have plenty of money according to her. Well, I told her I wasn't comfortable with that and that she needed to figure out her own budget. She then got really defensive and said I was being mean mean, and that friends help each other out. But the thing is, I have a better job because I didn't drop out of college like she did, and I can afford things because I budget, and I don't spend my food money on unnecessary things. She's been really cold to me ever since then, and even said I was being classist for not helping her when she's struggling. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm honestly incredibly annoyed. Okay, your friend is a complete idiot. This roommate literally doesn't know what she's talking about. It's not even funny. Is she really trying to be the victim here? It's like, I'm sorry, but the original poster didn't spend all their money on clothing. You did. Like, how is this the original poster's fault in the slightest? This all comes down to Anna not knowing how to handle her money and somehow still blaming you for her poor decisions. Like, that's just stupid, bro. Like, what are you talking about right now? So no, of course you're not the jerk, because all these problems that Anna's facing are literally things that she did to herself. Did I overreact for telling my fiance that I want a prenup agreement after he made a joke about putting everything in his mom's name if we ever divorce? Because right now everything is kind of falling apart and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so this just happened and I'm still kind of stunned about it. My fiance and I have been together for 5 years and engaged for 7 months. We were discussing finances and casually talking about wedding stuff when he joked with me and said, well, if we ever split, I'll just put everything in my mom's name. That way I can't lose what's not mine, right? Now I laughed awkwardly and I said that wasn't funny, and he just doubled down and said, no, but seriously, it's kind of smart. My mom's always had my back. I then told him that's actually really shady and it makes me feel like he's already planning an escape route. He then said I was being dramatic and said to me, well, if you don't have anything to hide, a prenup should be no big deal. So I said to him, cool, let's get one. He's now sulking and saying I clearly don't trust him and that I'm ruining the romantic part of our engagement. But it's like, didn't he bring it up first with that joke? His mom texted me today saying that I'm already acting like we're divorcing before the wedding. So seriously, am I overreacting here? Because this seems like a really messy situation. Dude, this guy is one big walking red flag. Like, are you kidding me right now? Holy crap. If I was in your shoes, there's no way I would take this as some kind of like casual joke. This guy probably really means this and he's testing the waters. In fact, he's probably already done this and he's waiting to see what your reaction is. Like, why on earth would he instigate a prenuptial agreement or even signing everything away to his mom before you guys get married? That is so stupid. Like, that's obviously what he's planning on doing. So no, you didn't overreact, and honestly, this is incredibly sketchy. Am I the jerk for bringing my dead father up in front of my mother's new husband? Because apparently I just found out that he's jealous of my dad, and now my mom and my aunt are turning on me and freaking out about me making any kind of comments like this. And at this point, I'm honestly incredibly frustrated. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm so upset I just don't know if I'm in the wrong or not. I'm a 28-year-old female, and my father passed away of cancer back in 2018 when I was 20 years old. Last weekend, my mother remarried. I get along well enough with her new husband. He is a cool guy in general, and he treats me and my mother well. He also has a 13-year-old daughter from a previous relationship, as he's been married and divorced with his ex. They have a 50-50 custody split of their daughter. During the wedding on Saturday, everyone had fun. I even shed some tears of joy for my mom. But Sunday, something shifted. My cousin asked if I'm going to call my mom's new husband dad, and I obviously said no. I already had a dad, and I was a fully grown woman by the time he came into my mother's life. After that comment, my mother and her sister pulled me aside and started yelling at me to stop bringing up my father in front of her new husband, because apparently he's jealous of a dead man. His ex is alive and they see each other every weekend to pass off the kid, but he's jealous of a dead man. I basically told them to get off of me, that I did not do it deliberately, but my father had been my father for 20 years, and naturally I bring him up sometimes in passing, especially to my younger cousin who was only 7 years old when my dad passed and barely remembers him. My aunt then went into this huge tangent. She said to me, your dad was important to me, but it's not important to anybody else anymore. You need to let go and move on instead of talking about him because everyone else is. Well, when she said that in turn absolutely made me cry, and I didn't speak to either of them for the rest of the day. So seriously, am I the jerk for bringing my dad up sometimes? Is it reasonable for my mother's husband to be jealous of a literal corpse? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. No, you're not the jerk. This is really insensitive behavior. You have every right to talk about your dad. Like, are these people being serious right now? Like, your mom and aunt are out of line. And for this guy to be jealous of your dad, like, seriously, dude, what are you talking about? He is literally no longer alive, and you're sitting there trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm jealous of that. I'm jealous that he was around when I wasn't. Like, this is all some crazy behavior and like absolutely uncalled for. Because obviously, no, you are not in the wrong for mentioning your father. You have every right to talk about him as much as possible, and just because your family's trying to forget him and never talk about him again, doesn't mean that you have to do the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for not lending my car to a friend who had totaled theirs while they were drunk driving? Because right now my friends are saying that I'm a bad person for not helping them out, and at this point I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, my friend, who we will call Mike, has been friends with with me ever since we were in college. 2 weeks ago, he got arrested for drunk driving and he totaled his car. Thankfully, nobody got hurt, but his license is suspended and his car is completely destroyed. But ever since then, he's been asking to borrow my car just for emergencies and important stuff. At first, I felt bad for him because losing your car really sucks, and I was considering it at first. But then I found out more details about what happened. He wasn't just a little bit over the limit, he was completely wasted. We're talking like twice the legal limit. He hit a parked car and then drove into a fence before the police found him. And he's lucky that someone didn't die. When I told him I wasn't comfortable lending him my car, he got really upset. He said he learned his lesson and would never drink and drive ever again. He also pointed out that I let him borrow it before when his car was in the shop last year. But this really feels different to me. Before, his car was just having mechanical problems. Now, I know he's made some really dangerous decisions behind the wheel, but what if he decides to drive after having just one drink or something like that? When it comes to my friends, they are kind of split on this. Some think that I should help him out since he's going through a rough time, and others think I'm being smart by protecting myself and my property. Mike keeps bringing it up and saying that I'm being a bad friend. He says he needs a car to get to work and that I should trust him. So honestly, am I the jerk for not wanting to give him my car? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say this as plainly as possible. Any of your friends who are saying, oh yeah, you should lend him your car, they are not your friends, and in fact, they are complete idiots. This guy had his license suspended. We're not just talking like, oh yeah, he got in an accident. He got his license suspended for drunk driving. And if he got caught driving again on a suspended license in your car, you can bet that car is gonna get impounded and you're probably gonna get in trouble in some kind of way. Like if I was in your shoes, I would tell this guy absolutely not. And then I would point to the friends and be like, oh yeah, they'll give you their car. They disagree with me, go talk to them. Like, no way are you gonna do that with my property, dude. Absolutely not. Because this really is a no-brainer, and anyone telling you otherwise is completely out of their mind. An entitled delivery driver calls my workplace to try and complain about my driving, despite the fact that he's the one that cut me off, forcing me to go around him on the road. But instead of ignoring this kind of comment, I decided to get some petty revenge by calling up his workplace and complaining to his store owner, resulting in this guy most likely getting fired again. Here's what happened. So this happened not too long ago. I happened to be on my way to work one morning, and I was cut off by a delivery driver for an automotive parts store in the United States. And this is honestly no big deal for me. It's kind of a hard corner to see traffic coming, so I totally get it. However, I did go around them in a center lane. I know, not exactly the correct thing to do, but I also didn't want to slam on my brakes, and these delivery drivers normally drive slow. So I went around and it was in a completely safe manner. No other traffic around us. I continued on my way to work and didn't think much of it. I mean, it does happen. And I don't ever call and complain about it because, again, it was a blind corner. Even in my bright red car, it can be hard to see. Well, fast forward to when I'm at work and my phone rings. I answer it and it's the company of the car that cut me off. He asked me who drives the red car and I told him it was me. He thought he held the moral high ground and was going to try and tell me how wrong I was and how I need to be a better driver. And you know, while also taking none of the blame, because nowadays it's always someone else's fault, right? So now at this point, I'm incredibly ticked off, and I then decide to get some petty revenge. I call the corporate number and I complain about being cut off, and the driver calling my own workplace to complain to me. Within a few minutes, the store owner of the franchise called to discuss what had happened. I then let him know the story, and I even reiterated that I was never going to call and complain in the first place about being cut off until I got a phone call from this jerk himself. Well, the owner was pretty angry that his employee did that, because according to them, this employee was rehired in the first place, which I'm positive must have led to a very interesting conversation. Oh man, imagine being so stupid that you call somebody up just to then shoot yourself in the foot like, dude, what are you doing? You're the one that cut this guy off, and then you had the audacity to call them up and be like, oh, you need to be a better driver. It's like, dude, do you want to get fired again? Like, what's going on right now? Getting rehired to a place that clearly this guy got fired from is not an easy task in and of itself. So for him to go out of his way and be like, you're the one that cut me off, you need to be a better driver. Like that kind of behavior after the way he was acting on the road is completely delusional and so far out of touch. Because what is going on right now? That's so dumb. Why would you do that to your career? So yeah, this guy's a complete moron, and any trouble he runs into honestly is going to be well deserved. My boyfriend said that it is not his responsibility to defend me from his family, who is absolutely treating me like garbage. Because right now I'm dealing with so much mistreatment from his family that he literally refuses to acknowledge, leaving me in a place that honestly is making me question this entire relationship. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off that I've mentioned to my boyfriend of almost 4 years that I sometimes feel uncomfortable because his mother and sister aren't always kind to me. Sometimes their disrespect is obvious and sometimes it's subtle. His mother minimizes minimizes the way she sometimes treats me, and his sister tried to lie to me when I once mentioned something that she did. I also asked him to stand up for me more, and sometimes he does, but he recently told me that it's not his job. He thinks that I should stand up for myself when his family disrespects me. Now, I disagreed with it, and I think that it is his responsibility as it's his family. I mean, I would defend him if my family was disrespecting him. Also, I feel like he puts his family above me, and I find it hard to believe that he doesn't notice when they disrespect me. Somehow, he always seems to notice when men look at me in public, but apparently he doesn't notice all the times his mother and sister are disrespectful towards me specifically. He talks a lot about how unity matters to him and wants me to have a relationship with his family, and I respect that, but I don't feel comfortable around people who clearly just don't want me to be there. He seems to live in a world where his family is always kind to everyone, which just isn't true. Him defending his family by excusing their behavior and saying how much they did for me, like inviting me on vacation for example, really discourages me from telling him how I feel. I want to give him the unity that he wants, but I also don't want to deal with the disrespect, especially while feeling like an outsider. He is usually a very logical and skeptical person, but quickly believes his family's lies. And it's disappointing because he is usually not like that. I feel like I can't have a good relationship with people who can't acknowledge their mean behavior, and I don't know what to do. At this point, I'm wondering if this relationship is even worth it, because I seriously am at such a breaking point. Okay, I've got to be honest with you, I think your boyfriend is a toxic piece of garbage. Not only is this absolutely his responsibility, but the fact that he's not doing anything about it and choosing to just like turn a blind eye to it, like that in my opinion is absurd and completely uncalled for. He has no right to treat you that way. And yes, this is him actively treating you like garbage, because you've got it 100% right. If this was your family, you absolutely would step in and be like, guys, you gotta be nicer to him. Like that really is a reasonable thing to do. I know I would do that. If I had a partner who was like, yeah, your family's super rude, I would go to my family and be like, look, if you ever want to see my partner ever again, you're gonna back off and leave them alone, because what's happening right now is just dismissive and so uncalled for. And just for the record, this guy is not logical. What he really is just lazy. He's lazy because he doesn't want to do anything about the fact that you're being mistreated, which again is completely unacceptable, because instead, from the sounds of it, he wants you to just submit to whatever's going on and not do anything about it. He wants you to stay quiet and put up with this crap when in reality you absolutely should not have to do that. So yes, this is your boyfriend's responsibility to defend you against his family, and the fact that he's not willing to do that is a major red flag. And I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would be trusting my instincts here, and I would be like, okay, I need to find a better relationship, because what's going on with my boyfriend is completely uncalled for. My entitled family demands that I allow my sister to move into my house after she apparently fell on hard times. And despite the fact that I said no and that they are awful people, they simply refuse to listen to my reasoning, forcing me to get the police involved just to get them away from my home. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm currently living with my husband in a 2-floor house in the suburbs that is big enough for the both of us and also to host lots of guests if needed. 7 years ago when I was 25, I lost my one and only soulmate, my best friend. She was my world and my rock, and everything made sense around her. I could talk about her all day, but that would take too long to write down, and I would probably break down in tears anyways. After she passed away due to a horrible freak accident, I fell into a depression that led me to drinking away my feelings. And this completely altered my life for the worse. I lost my apartment, my friends, my family, and my life. I had absolutely no one, and my parents were so ashamed of me that they refused to let me live with them. And my sister, well, she claimed that she was living in an apartment that was way too small and that she just couldn't house me. So I ended up being homeless and desperate for a long time. 6 years later and a million rehabilitation meetings later, and I am now fully sober with a kid on the way. I never kept contact with my family after what happened, and instead I focused on myself and I met the love of my life. Well, fast forward to a month ago, and my sister found my new number through an old friend and contacted me asking if she could stay at my house for a while. Apparently she had lost her job and had been going through a tough divorce and lost her house as well. Well, obviously I refused, reminding her of how she treated me in the past. Well, last week my parents and my sister somehow found my address and they came to my house demanding to let my sister stay here. My sister defended her past actions by revealing that she found out she was pregnant after my best friend passed away, but apparently never wanted to tell me due to the fact that I was grieving. She also didn't want me to stay at her place because she was scared that I would somehow push her into also being an alcoholic and somehow harm her kid. She then said that her situation is different now because she already has kids that her ex-husband has custody of and that she wants to get her life together and she needs my help. Well, after a long discussion, things were getting heated and I had to eventually call the police. I'm now thinking of filing a restraining order against them, but my husband is telling me to just let go of my rage and help my family out. I honestly don't know what to do, and I already feel super stressed out while also being pregnant, and I have hormones headphones jumping out of my ears. So that may also be the reason for me being extra angry. I need someone's opinion on this situation who doesn't know me, and I'm hoping for some kind of advice because right now I really don't know what to do. Dude, this is some crazy behavior. You mean to tell me that these people rejected you at your lowest point, but somehow they're gonna show up and be like, you need to let your sister in. She needs to live with you right now. This is what family does. And it's like, yeah, this is what family does. You guys literally turned your back on me, and now suddenly I'm supposed to be the better person? Like, what are we talking about here? If the sister really needs a place to stay, then stay with your parents. Why are you coming to my doorstep? And in my opinion, it's kind of alarming that your husband is not on your side with this one, because this is just some stupid behavior. He does know that these people abandoned you when you had nothing, right? Like, they literally allowed you to sink to your lowest point in your life, and they still want to try and be like, oh, it's your turn to help us out. But it's like, wait a second, when did you ever help me out? So honestly, your whole family is super entitled, and the fact that they're trying to throw this on your shoulders is completely toxic.
If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories.
Am I the jerk for snapping at my roommate for leaving her dog home when she literally sleeps at her boyfriend's house all the time? Because right now I'm kind of getting sick of having to take care of this dog, and at this point I'm honestly super frustrated. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I live with my best friend who we will call Molly for the sake of the story. I work from home and Molly works in an office. Molly has a dog by the name of Gabby, and Molly is not the best dog mom if I'm being completely honest. She walks her maybe 1 to 2 times a day, and the walks are anywhere between 3 to 10 minutes long. That's it. That's all the stimulation this poor dog gets. Now, I secretly walk her extra times because I feel bad, but I don't want my friend to know about that. Anyways, Gabby is historically terrified of thunderstorms. She will whine, she will pace the house, and she will be very loud, scratching at the walls and doors and all this other stuff. Molly's been dating a guy for about 8 months, and it's getting pretty serious. She stays at his house anywhere between 2 to 4 nights a week, so Molly will come home from work, walk Gabby for a few minutes, and then immediately leave again for the night. She literally never brings Gabby to the boyfriend's house. Now, we live in a rainforest climate, and it's been raining here every single day and night for 2 weeks and counting now. So when Molly goes to her boyfriend's house for the night, she fully knows how Gabby is going to act, but she leaves her here anyways for me to inevitably deal with. I finally confronted my friend about this, and her response was to lock her in my bathroom. She'll be fine. And it's like, what are you talking about? I'm not locking this dog anywhere, and I think this whole thing is really messed up in general. I finally snapped at Molly about this, and we haven't spoken in a few days. We avoid each other like the plague, and Molly is too selfish to apologize. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Should I have just kept my mouth shut? Or was I right to say something and be justified to be fed up and pissed off? What should I do? Okay, you had every right to say something here. You are definitely not the jerk. Molly's a terrible dog owner, like seriously. She's literally leaving this dog for you and just not even like considering the fact that, hey, maybe you don't want to deal with this. Which basically means that Gabby is slowly becoming your dog instead of Molly's. And if she really cared about this dog, she would take the dog with her to her boyfriend's house. She basically lives there anyways. Like, what's going on right now? So I know if I was in your shoes, I would be very pissed off. Because there is no way I should ever be expected to have any kind of like responsibility over this dumb dog. And I'm right there with the original poster. I'm never gonna lock a dog in a bathroom just because my roommate is lazy and doesn't want to take care of their animal. That's just incredibly cruel and something that you should absolutely not have to deal with. Am I the jerk for refusing to help my sister with her baby every single day after work? Literally because I just don't have time to make that kind of commitment. Here's what's going on. I'm a 21-year-old female and I work full-time every single day except for Sundays. My sister recently had a baby who is now 5 months old. I love my nephews and I visit them whenever I can after work, but it's usually a long trip and I get home at around 9 o'clock when I go there. I live with my mom and she doesn't like me taking showers after 9 o'clock because of the noise. Even though I pay the water and electric bills, I try to avoid fights and respect that. My sister just returned from maternity leave and asked me to come help with the baby every day after work so that she can shower and get things done. I told her that it's difficult for me because of how late I get home and the problems it causes at home. I also mentioned that I'm usually exhausted after work and that going there daily would be way too much. Well, she said that it was fine, but then got really upset and started yelling at me. She brought up personal things, saying that I can't keep a job and making me feel like I'm unreliable. Now, I was just trying to explain my situation, but she seemed to take it as some kind of attack. And now I don't feel comfortable going to her her house anymore, even though I care about her and the baby. She has a husband and in-laws who could help her out as well, so I don't feel like it's fair for her to expect this much from me. So seriously, am I the jerk right now? Because honestly, I'm not sure how to take this. No, this is really weird behavior in my opinion. I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think your sister's overwhelmed and she's taking this out on you, which is absolutely not fair. Because think about it for a second. She has a husband and all these other people who absolutely can help out. So if anyone should be stepping in to like take care of the baby, it should be your husband, not you. Like, come on, man. You should not be expected to come over every single day to take care of her child. That is not how this is going to work. And also, it doesn't mean you're selfish or uncaring. It means you have your own life and your life doesn't revolve around her baby. So no, you're definitely not the jerk here because what your sister's asking of you is kind of overboard. Am I the jerk for calling my stepdad out for his awful behavior towards me? Because my mom is literally doing nothing about this and instead trying to say that I'm the one being rude, despite the fact that this guy is constantly messing with me. Here's what's going on. For a bit of context, I'm an 18-year-old female and I've never gotten along with my stepdad. We've barely gotten along since my biological dad passed away, and my mom has been married to this guy since 2020. Recently, my stepdad has been causing more issues with me. I asked him to shut the door because I was holding two dogs. I had my puppy between my legs, and I was holding my mom's 150-pound St. Bernard with his collar so they wouldn't run outside. But he just looked at me and rudely said, "Calm down," when I literally asked him nicely to shut the door. Then the next day, which was yesterday, I came home with ice cream. Now this is ice cream I had bought myself as a treat to reward myself because I've been cutting wheat out of my diet. Well, as soon as I walked into the kitchen, he expected me to share my ice cream. He said to me, "You brought home goodies and you won't even share?" Meanwhile, he had his own ice cream in the freezer, along with many desserts on the counter. Also, I spent my own money on this ice cream, so I didn't feel the reason to share it with him. I went to my mom because I was annoyed, and she was in the kitchen when it happened. She then told me that I've been rude to him lately, when I haven't been rude to him at all, and any of my rude behavior was me calling him out for being rude to me. She then told me how I need to treat him better and stop being rude to him. Well, today I walked inside after my mom told me that a package came for us. My stepdad then brought the box inside and decided to open the box so I could get my stuff. He looked at me and said, "That's mine," even though he knew the box had stuff for me and my mom in it. My mom told him that he could go through her stuff and take anything he wanted, but did not take any of my stuff. So I decided to text my mom, and I complained once again about his behavior because his words were unnecessary, but instead she said that I was being rude. My last straw was when I found him in my snack drawer. I have my own drawer of snacks as I avoid wheat due to having a wheat allergy, and my snacks are gluten-free, and I'm the only one in the house who has any reason to eat gluten-free snacks. So I called him out, as my mom had told him multiple times to stay away from my snacks, and that snacks for everyone else are in the drawer below. So am I the jerk for calling out my stepdad? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. No, your stepdad sounds super annoying, and it seems like he's doing this on purpose just to try and get under your skin. And yes, your stepdad is a problem, but also the fact that your mom is not doing anything about this, that in my opinion is an even bigger problem. It shows that she does not give a flying crap about your experience in that household. And that's a huge red flag. Like, that really sucks. Like, this guy's got it out for you and your mom is just letting it happen. She's just saying, "Oh, you have to be the one to change. You're being so rude to him." And it's like, no, that's not what's going on, lady. You know for a fact he is screwing with you. So no, you're not the jerk for calling him out, because honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for giving my sister an allowance every month without telling my mom about it, all because I love my sister and I want to help her out? Because after my mom found out about this, she went ballistic, saying that because I'm doing this for my sister, she claims that I'm implying that she's a bad mom, leaving me in a situation where I worry I might have made a mistake. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my little sister, who we will call Ellie, has an intellectual disability. She's independent for the most part, but needs assistance for things like finances. She works but has a maximum she can earn due to her benefit situation that I simply won't be getting into here. So because of that, she has extremely little leftover money each month. And by extremely little, I mean next to none. If she does have a little extra $10, she uses it to buy things for her cat. Ellie is incredibly thoughtful and kind as a human being. Well, my husband and I have a little extra money each month, and we decided we would give some of that to Ellie so that she can have a little bit of fun. We give the money to her in the form of a gift card, usually to her grocery store, a coffee shop, or something else that she likes to go to and do, like the movies or something like that. Unfortunately, we don't live close to each other, so we can't take her to do these things in person. We chose to do this without telling our parents because we are all adults, and we confirmed it wouldn't impact her benefit situation at all. And this has, as of now, been going on for about 8 months now. However, my mom found out about this somehow and went ballistic. She called to say that she was extremely insulted we would go behind her back back to be a parent for Ellie. She said we were implying that she was a bad mom, that we had no right to involve ourselves in Ellie's financial life. We were shocked to say the least and tried to explain it was just a little bit of money. We're talking maybe $100 at most each month. And we did this because we love Ellie, not because we're trying to undermine her. And for the record, my mom is not very healthily involved in Ellie's life. She does help with some logistical needs around her benefits, but my dad does most of the work, and my mom doesn't support her financially at all. She obviously loves Ellie, but since they also live far apart, she's a bit less involved than my dad. So seriously, am I the jerk for this? Is my mom justified for being pissed off? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk. I can tell you exactly why your mom's pissed off. She's mad because you're stepping up in a way that she isn't. Because right now she's projecting how she feels about herself onto you. She's trying to be like, oh, you think I'm a terrible mother and all this other crap, but it's like, no, you're saying it yourself. You're a terrible mom and you know it, and you could be more involved, but you're not. And that, in my opinion, is like the most revealing thing about this entire scenario. She could be doing more, but she's not, and the fact that you are makes her feel inferior, which hopefully will prompt some kind of change, but in my opinion, it probably won't. So no, you're not the jerk, and I think your mom is just being overdramatic. Am I overreacting for snapping at my best friend for inviting my awful ex-boyfriend to her wedding simply because he's a part of the friend group? Because right now, I'm seriously considering stepping away from this wedding and not being a part of it at all because of this. Here's what's going on. So my best friend is getting married in 2 months and asked me to be a bridesmaid. We've known each other since college, and at first I was very excited. That is, until she sent me the guest list and I saw my ex's name on it. This man emotionally mistreated me for 2 years. Gaslighting, public humiliation, cheating, the works. And she was there for all of it. She saw me crying on her couch countless times. We haven't been together for 4 years, but the trauma is still fresh sometimes. When I asked her why he was invited, she said to me, well, he's part of our friend group, and it would be weird if he wasn't there. Don't worry, you won't even have to talk to him. I told her that I couldn't believe she was prioritizing social convenience over my emotional safety. She then said I was making it about me and that weddings aren't the time for grudges. So I straight up told her that I wouldn't feel comfortable attending, let alone standing beside her. She then told me I was overreacting and that I was ruining her vibe. I haven't replied since, as I do kind of feel heartbroken over the friendship entirely. So seriously, am I overreacting for sitting this one out, or am I justified in any kind of way? Because right now I'm incredibly devastated. No, you're not the jerk, and you're definitely not overreacting. This guy literally mistreats you for years, and your friend saw this, and she still is like, oh, let's not hold a grudge. It'd be weird if he wasn't here. Let's not worry about that stuff right now. It's my wedding. Like, dude, what are you talking about? This is some crazy behavior. Like, this lady does not sound like a friend at all. And just like someone said in the comment section of this post, luckily you found out right now, because my God, this is a huge red flag. She would happily bring along your ex-boyfriend instead of listening to you and in some way like prioritizing your safety. So no, you're not overreacting, and I know if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. Would I be the jerk if I called the city on my neighbors after they parked their RV in the back alley that has effectively blocked me from parking pretty much anywhere near my house? Because after their rude attitude and condescending demeanor, I'm honestly considering doing this because right now I don't know what else to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, my neighbors have always parked their work truck in the back alley by their garage. I am completely fine with this, even though sometimes it gets too close to my back entrance. However, they have now parked their detached RV in the back alley, and it is clearly blocking not only the back entrance, but it's just a little off to the entrance of my own double garage. Needless to say, it has been challenging parking my car that is on the side where their RV is parked, as I only have the opposite side of the back alley to angle my car to go in and out. They've parked their RV there for more than a month now, and so I finally cracked and I went to talk to them about it. I got one of the couple to answer the door, and I asked how long they were planning to park their RV in the back. Well, her response, although she did sound a bit annoyed, is that they will park there for a couple more days. And then she completely stopped the conversation by shutting her doors before I can say anything else. And so now, since I'm a little bit frustrated with her response, and in all honesty, just by the way she acted, I'm wondering if I would be the jerk by calling the city about their parking job. And as a side note, you definitely cannot park your RV in the back alley at all, meaning that I would be in the right for complaining about these people. Okay, first of all, no, you would not be the jerk if you complained about these people, because their attitude is what would really piss me off. If they slammed the door in my face after they're like, oh, we'll be there for a few more days, and then didn't explain anything further, like, holy crap, I would go to the furthest extent possible to make sure these people get in trouble. I would take pictures, I would take videos, I would show that yes, they're blocking my alleyway access, and they're literally preventing me from parking my car. So no, you would not be the jerk, especially with their attitude, because if they want to be toxic, then guess what? You can and should absolutely return the favor. Am I the jerk for asking my sister not to make jokes about kissing my fiance? Because after she did that during a July 4th party, it made things so awkward that I couldn't help but say something later in private, causing a massive argument between the two of us that's still going on today. Here's what happened. Okay, so my fiance and I have been together for about 3 years now, and recently he finally proposed. He has always been a family friend and was best friends with my sister for a while before we got together. My sister is the way we met, and I will always be grateful for that. However, recently I was back home to visit my parents, and my sister came along as well. When the party died down, I was with my fiance, my sister, and another close family friend from home in my parents' basement. My sister sat in between me and my fiance, which I didn't mind because they are very close friends. However, she made a joke saying, "What if I made out with your fiance right now?" When she said this, I was shocked, but I didn't want to speak up right then and cause a fight in front of our friend. So I just said to her, "Oh, that would be crazy, so please don't do that." I then later approached my sister about it, and I asked why she would say that and that it's a bit weird to be talking about kissing my fiance. She then said that I was overreacting and that it was all jokes, going on about how I need to understand that this is just how she jokes with him. I understand they have been friends for a long time, but it made me very uncomfortable when she made that joke. I talked to my fiance and he said that he also thought it was weird of her to say that, but now I'm fighting with my sister about this almost every single day. So am I the jerk for starting a fight about this with her? Because right now I'm not sure what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. This is weird behavior. I don't care who you are. Saying you're gonna make out with your sibling's fiance is not a good move. And if anything, that's a big red flag. Like seriously, this is messed up. And I can only imagine how uncomfortable that was for your fiance. If I was sitting there with my fiance and their sister was like, "Ooh, I can make out with you right now," I would stand up and be like, "What is going on right now? This is weird." Like just think if the roles were reversed. This would be a horrifying situation. So why does your sister get off on saying that and think it's okay? So no, you're definitely not the jerk for calling her out about this because she is absolutely in the wrong. That is a weird comment to make that is absolutely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for not refunding pet sitting money immediately after the job was canceled overnight while I was attending a funeral abroad? Because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I was hired to pet sit for someone for about 2.5 weeks. I committed to the job, I kept her consistently updated, and I even booked my flight around the exact dates that she gave me. Everything was planned and I started the job as agreed. I was paid on the first day of pet sitting, and I had already begun caring for the pets when I received devastating news. A very close family member, someone who was like a mother to me, had passed away unexpectedly. I let the pet owners know right away, I kept her in the loop, and I arranged for full coverage for the days I would be away. I used the last of my savings to buy a last-minute international flight to attend the funeral, with every intention of returning after 5 days to complete the job. Well, after I landed in another country, she canceled the job. No prior warning, despite all my communication and all my planning. Now, she's demanding that I return the money she sent me immediately. And while I haven't refused, I just explained that I got back very late last night and I'm still grieving. I'm emotionally exhausted and financially drained. I need some time to get back on my feet. It feels like I'm being treated as if I flaked out or that I tried to take advantage, but I was doing everything I could to fulfill the job. I worked the first part, I communicated the entire time, and she canceled on me after I made huge sacrifices to follow through. So am I the jerk for not being able to pay her back immediately under these circumstances? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I've got to be completely honest with you. Yes, I absolutely think the original poster is the jerk. You did not fulfill your side of the agreement with this job. And yes, I understand you had a family member pass away, but at that point you left the job and you tried to ship it off to someone else, and I'm sure the owners of the pets were like, no, this is not going to work. So they absolutely should have canceled the job right then and there. So guess what? If they cancel the job, then that means you can't keep the money. You've got to give it back as explained. I don't care how emotionally drained or exhausted you are. They paid you for a service that you didn't provide. So yes, overall, I absolutely think that you definitely are the jerk. My entitled employer decided to screw me over right when I showed up for the job, as he tried to undercut my pay at the last second after I drove 9 hours to make the job. So I decided to get some much needed revenge by literally playing his game against him, forcing him to pay me even more money just to shut him down and show him that he cannot screw with me in this kind of way. Here's how it all went down. I want to start off by saying that I'm a paramedic, and please don't be fooled. We don't do cool stuff every day. It's a regular job with moments of sheer terror, stress, and tons of other things to do, but only at certain random times. After years of working the regular ambulance, I needed to go work where things were less stressful. Thankfully, a lot of industrial projects needed paramedics, business, and the exchange is fair but brutal. I avoided the stress in exchange for staggering periods of crushing boredom. Nobody wants me to be busy on an oil well completion. I'm there just in case crap goes down and to secure lower insurance rates. There are also way more different private companies that fill contracts to provide medical staff for industry than you might believe. So if work dries up at one company, I'm going to find the company that has work and sign up with them. And all the companies understand this. It's only casual class work, even if you do 84 hours a week, 3 weeks a month. Mercenaries go where money is, and I do the exact same thing. The quality of the company varies, and some companies give you good quality gear, and others give you crap that looks like it was made by Fisher-Price but less durable. Now the pay is around the same, and paramedics aren't available in huge abundance. Now I don't know about any other industry, but we are an employee market right now, and for some weird reason, the average time people like being paramedics is 10 years. Whenever a company is paying its staff who's brand new and just out of school, I won't be working for them without being paid more than that. And sure, I may be an old man, but my experience has value. So I was contracted online by a company about a 24-day contract with possible work after that. My first question is always about the pay. The general manager seemed personable and charismatic on the phone, and he asked me what I've been making on average. So I told him that $34 an hour is the middle ground, and he replied by saying, "Okay, great. We can be competitive with that wage." And I thought to myself, well, crap. I don't know why I didn't press him on an exact number, and how I missed the weasel word competitive. I am normally way too suspicious and cynical to not get specifics or miss a huge red flag like that. I don't know where this sudden faith in the good intentions of strangers came from, because it's never been there before. Now, I agreed to start heading in my own car to their office the next day, as it was about a 9-hour drive away. And if you think that's a dumb thing to do without getting anything in writing, well, maybe, but it's just how it works out being a paramedic on industrial jobs. Nobody's ever tried to screw me over before, and it always goes the same. They ask me when I can start, and then they tell me to drive to this town and get my equipment and do paperwork to become an employee and get to the job. And the pay has always been what was agreed to, both verbally and in writing. Now, I arrived at this janky yard with an office trailer, and I met with the general manager. He then started talking about the oil well job, which is a large project, and it's why they need my level of care. So I thought to myself, okay, so there's a large chance of no incidents, and a small chance that something will explode and probably take us all out. We then toured the office and equipment before we went to his office to then move forward and complete the onboarding paperwork. He then said to me, "As soon as you sign the employment agreement, we can get you on the road. The job is set up to begin tomorrow." Now, I agreed that I could get on the road as soon as we fixed the error of my hourly rate, because they had it marked down that I was going to get paid $26 an hour when we had agreed on $34 an hour. And when I asked him about this, he said that he confirmed that this was the rate they wanted to pay me for the 24-day job. I then let the general manager know that I didn't like the deceptiveness or driving 800 kilometers for the experience. I didn't share his thoughts on the meaning of certain words. The general manager then said, "I hope you don't hold me responsible for the mismatch with our communication and your expectations," because apparently he was 100% convinced that I would agree to that wage before I would go home empty-handed. He even said to me, "Oh, you're here anyways, just this one time," and stuff like that came up over and over again. I already see myself in the future burning this man in effigy. I'll be holding hands and singing Kumbaya with his family at the same time. He clearly thinks he's the smartest person in the room everywhere he goes. I mean, I can't see any evidence that he's aware how transparent his bullcrap is. Like, he's definitely not in any danger of being appointed to the Royal Society by mistake. If I was risking homelessness, I would have done it. It's harder to exploit people if they don't risk immediate economic ruin. I mean, I have savings. During that time in history and during that season of the year, it actually wouldn't have been unreasonable to get a different job the same week or even in the same day, because getting too many job offers was the real problem. I let the guy know that I wasn't interested in the job at that wage. And trust me, you would be very wrong in thinking he would let that be the end of it. He kept showing me how much contempt he had for me as a person. He said to me, "We could come up in wages, but it might mean that some bills don't get paid on time. We could go to $30 an hour. What do you say about that?" And I said to him, "Well, you're about $4 an hour away from being at the solution." He then started talking about how it's tough being a small company that nobody helps. "We have to bid low on jobs to get them. We can't survive if we don't, and that means that we can't pay the most. We can't compete without doing that. Maybe you just don't understand capitalism or running a business." He then gave vague, non-specific statements, and pledges of future benefits occurred. He was basically saying, "Oh, we help people who help us." Or he'll say, "Oh, we remember our friends and loyalty, and eventually we pay our dividends." Now, I don't know about others, but I hate when an employer makes statements about them being more like family. I mean, maybe your family, but nobody in my family tries to screw me over, and they don't financially mistreat other relatives. I work for money. I'm a professional. I hold a professional license, and you pay me for my professional skills. If the quality you're looking for above all else is loyalty, then hire a golden retriever. Now, all of this manipulative nonsense might have worked on me when I was a bit younger, and I viewed life with a rosier shade. But I'm not special. Most veteran paramedics wouldn't react much differently. I told him that I was leaving, and then I got in my car and I said, burn my resume. Good luck in your quest to find someone desperate enough to debase themselves. Well, I got about 20 minutes down the highway before I took a call from the general manager, and I thought to myself, oh, screw it, why not? Let's go ahead and answer it. I'm actually curious why he wants to talk to me. In that time frame, he had called their customer, the billion-dollar oil company, and told them that they had no paramedic for the next day. Well, that sucks because as this guy explained it to me, they couldn't legally do any work if one wasn't on site. And these oil barons must have said some ugly and menacing words to him because when we talked, he was tripping over himself to get me to come back for this job. He kept saying that $34 an hour is fine, he'll pay for it. I'm a special boy and they're spoiling me with my allowance. He tried hard to be personable and act like my long-term bestie. Joked about the owner not being able to lease a new Mercedes until next year. Laughs and chuckles because, you know, who cares, right? At least they won't be stuck paying for all the cost of putting an entire site on standby. Now, at this point, I fought the impulse to engage in comical levels of extortion. Everyone really should admire my restraint because I really wanted to tell him, hey, I'll do it for $250,000 a day. But instead, I chose an extra $6 above my initial wage. I arrived there being willing to cut a small company some slack on my regular $34 an hour, and not even an hour after dealing with their manager, I felt justified in any outrageous demand. When I told the general manager that I'd be happy to drive back for this job, he made an audible noise of relief. His bacon must have been truly torched without me returning. But that moment of relief soured when I told him I wasn't going to do it without being paid $40 an hour. Well, that guy didn't take it with grace. What are you talking about? That's not the wage you told me you normally make. You can't do that. And you know what? He's right. That's the top dollar I made for a short notice, must be done kind of job. He's very wrong if he thinks I can't be a huge jerk when negotiating my wage. I mean, laws aren't written to enforce politeness. I confirmed that this was a recent price change, and I stated, well, I hope you don't hold me responsible for this sudden increase in labor cost. I don't control the invisible hand of economics. Market forces dictate wages. Right now, there's an urgent need for skilled people and a shortage of an available workforce. Well, when I said that, he agreed to my offer, and I'm not ignorant about his lack of options. I got an explicit wage offer in multiple pieces of writing, and I wasn't surprised to learn that he is not a gracious loser. The snide remarks just kept coming in. Shutting him up was a Herculean task not worth my effort. He told me that I might be damaging myself long term, as this could harm my reputation and lose my future employment. And it's like, what are you talking about? Damaging my reputation for being a competent paramedic who also behaves like a jerk with regularity? God forbid the EMS community discovers my abrasive nature and lack of decorum. Please don't inform everyone how I don't feel the need to use a language filter in every single situation. You can't alienate me from anything, bro. I've beaten you to that eons ago. Well, thankfully, my paycheck was what I was expecting it to be, without anything going wrong or getting mixed up. And to be completely honest, I wasn't actually convinced that's how it would all play out. The job was fine, nothing worth remembering, and I only did the 24-day job. I didn't ask about more work, and they definitely did not offer. Because at the end of the day, it's important to not underestimate your own value, especially when it comes to people who are actively trying to screw you over. Oh my gosh, this guy's a piece of crap who did this to you. Seriously, you agree to $34 an hour on the phone, and then you show up and this guy's like, oh, whoops, looks like it's gonna be less. You're gonna take the job, right? Oh yeah, it starts tomorrow, by the way. Like, dude, you drove over 800 kilometers. You drove 9 hours to get there. And I don't know about you, but if I drove that far just to get the rug pulled out from underneath me, I would be pissed. I would be so upset, like seriously. So good for you for setting this guy straight and playing his game against him, because his behavior was completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not letting my roommate borrow my laptop for her online exam after she literally broke her own? Because right now she's saying that I'm being controlling for not just handing it over, and at this point I feel like a bad friend and I'm honestly not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. I'm a 23-year-old female college student living with my roommate, who we will call Emma, in a shared apartment. I'm super careful with my stuff, especially my laptop, which I saved up for last year to use for school and side gigs. Now, Emma is generally pretty cool, but she's not great with her electronics. She has cracked her phone screen twice and recently dropped her laptop, which stopped working entirely. Well, last week Emma told me that she has an important online exam coming up, and she asked to borrow my laptop for it since hers is broken. Now, I was hesitant because I've got my own assignments due, and I use my laptop to freelance graphic design work, which is time sensitive. Plus, I'm paranoid about something happening to it given her track record. I offered to let her use it at our kitchen table while I'm home, just so I could keep an eye on it, and I even suggested that she try to use the library's computers as a backup. But when I said that, she got upset with me, saying the library's computers are slow and she needs a reliable device for her timed exam. She then called me controlling for not just handing it over and said I'm not being a good friend, especially since she's let me borrow small things like her hairdryer before. I feel bad because I know she's stressed about her exam and I really just don't want to seem stingy, but I worked hard for my laptop and I need it for my own work and my own classes. I also don't think it's fair that she expects me to risk my device when she hasn't been careful with hers. I suggested she ask another friend or rent a laptop herself, but she said I'm making it harder for her, and then she stormed off. So am I the jerk for not letting her borrow my laptop outright? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, no, you are not the jerk. You're not obligated to give her your laptop just because you're roommates. And the fact that she's trying to be like, oh, you should just give it to me. You're being so controlling right now. I can't stand this. Like, that's just straight up manipulation. This is your property. You don't have to give it to her. And you know what? If she really needs to take that exam, she can use the library computer. Like, who cares if it's slow? Go ahead and use that if you really need something. Because there's a high likelihood that your laptop is going to get broken too, because she's busted her phone screen twice and dropped her own laptop and it's not even working anymore. So no, you're not the jerk for not giving it to her. She's clearly not to be trusted, and honestly, I would not even entertain that for another second. Am I the jerk for ghosting someone after they basically started to copy my entire personality? Because after dealing with this for so long, I'm honestly at my breaking point and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I met this girl at my college language learning center, and at first she seemed super chatty, like very chatty, but I just assumed that she might be neurospicy, so I didn't think much of it and I just vibed pretty well with her. But it honestly started getting really weird. Like, I would say stuff like, well, I'm gonna go run to the bathroom real quick, 1 second. And she'd say, okay, I'll come with you. Or I would say, I need to go skate alone for a bit to clear my head. And then she would just insist on coming along every single time, even though she doesn't even skate or have a board in the first place. Even if I said I just needed a minute, if I went to go get snacks for my friends, she would have to come along too. One time, I needed to talk about something serious with my friend, and she literally followed us out. And even when I told her that she needed to leave, she proceeded to say, oh, I just want to hear what's going on. And it's like, dude, are you kidding me? She also kept bringing me food, which was honestly super sweet. And let's be real, as a broke college student living on not that much money, that is a big deal for people you just met. But with that in mind, she also kept saying she didn't have money and lived out of state. So it just made me and a lot of my friends feel worried and guilty. When I first met her, I gave her my TikTok so that we could send each other videos. But I never have notifications on because I don't want to get hooked. When I checked like 3 days later, she had sent me over 150 videos. And every time I saw her, she would ask me again and again if I'd watched all of them, pointing out specific ones and making me open my phone to watch them right then and there. But I then noticed slowly but surely, she started talking like me, using my little phrases, mimicking my laugh, even going as far as copying my accent. Now, for the record, I don't even really have one, but I'm from a place where certain words sound different. And then on top of all of that, she started dressing exactly like me. Jean jackets, the same shoes, the same leggings, even down to the specific brands. Now I wear a headscarf, but I'm not super strict on the way I dress, but I make sure no skin is showing as we live in a desert, so it's really hot. So when she started dressing the exact same and complained about the heat, it finally got to me. It even got to music. She's from the South and said that she was a country fan, but after I brought up my taste, she suddenly would blast it on her headphones around her neck or post it on her story. After a few months of that, this incident really pushed me to cut her off. I let her try my board one day and offered to help her learn, and she was like, no, I got it, and then fell every single time. She couldn't even balance, and even ignored my advice. And I don't really think much of it until she calls me that night, literally panicking and having an anxiety attack. She said to me, I need to get the same skateboard as you. And the next day she shows up with the exact same one, like down to the design and the logo. She did it right at once, but also she put it next to mine and kept trying to get me to look at it and adjust it with my tools. And that was honestly my breaking point, because after that, I just kind of started distancing myself. I stopped letting her follow me everywhere, I stopped accepting her food, and eventually stopped being super friendly. When she brought us crumble cookies and I politely said no thank you, she straight up got mad and was like, I bought these for you. Why are you ignoring me? And it was the first time I saw her genuinely aggressive, and it really freaked me out. She eventually stopped coming around and I didn't even notice it at first. But I haven't seen her on campus either. I never explained why I pulled away, I just did. And I feel like maybe I should have said something. Maybe she was just lonely or didn't realize how much she was crossing boundaries. But also, I felt like my every move was being followed by someone who wanted to become me. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm not sure what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because this is some weird behavior. She only wanted to be around you because she wanted to copy you and become exactly like you. And that is super weird in my opinion. I can understand why you would get frustrated, because I know I would absolutely get frustrated with that as well, especially with her literally just crossing boundaries left and right. So no, you're not the jerk, and you're definitely not obligated to entertain whatever the crap was going on with her, because her behavior behavior was incredibly weird. Am I the jerk for refusing to take sides in a workplace feud after my coworkers have lost their mind accusing a coworker of stealing from the rest of them? Because right now this is all so petty and stupid, I honestly just want nothing to do with it. Here's what's going on. I'm a 39-year-old female, and I've been an ER doctor in a small rural hospital for 6 years now. One of the ugly secrets not everyone knows about hospitals is that valuables often go missing. It's deplorable, but in a place with hundreds of workers and thousands of strangers constantly coming in and out, likely not everyone is gonna be honest. So since my first day here, my coworkers told me to hide my wallet because cash tends to disappear around here. But what kept changing was the alleged culprit. In my first year, everybody swore it was a health technician who eventually quit for unrelated reasons. Then they switched to blame an ER nurse, and now to another for the past 2 to 3 years. Now, I believe that where there's smoke, there's also fire. And that being said, my own experience in these years has always been very positive. I'm known to be very forgetful and careless about my stuff, yet nothing has ever disappeared. As long as I've been here, I've always refused to take sides. I'm friendly with everyone, and although I enjoy innocent gossip, like who's sleeping with who, I firmly refuse to judge anyone based on voices alone. Now, a woman we will call Amy, who is the person everyone's blaming for this, has always been a friend of mine. We exchange jokes, and sometimes we speak in confidence. She's in a rough spot because of health concerns with her elderly parents, and I try to be as supportive as possible. But what really drives me up a wall is the general attitude in the ward. At least 3 ER workers have told me that they have personally witnessed Amy rummaging through coworkers and patients' purses, yet no one has ever stopped her in the act, or even called her to the side to ask what in the world she was doing or filed a report. Lately, I've been unwillingly involved in this drama, although I always just try to stay out of it. A couple of colleagues have openly criticized me for continuing to be in good terms with Amy, implying that if I keep being friends with her, then I must condone her behavior. But yesterday, I finally lost my cool. I bluntly stated that I have the right to talk to whoever I want, that I've never actually seen a sliver of proof that she's actually done what she's accused of, that adult people should have the courage to speak up when they see someone committing a crime, and that this mean girl's attitude is more worthy of kindergarten than any kind of professional setting. As so, I'm now shunned by a good portion of my coworkers. Now, I couldn't care less about what my coworkers think, but I'm torn about how I handled the situation. If Amy is actually guilty, of course I won't shield her anymore, but I don't feel comfortable jumping on the bandwagon with nothing more than whispers and gossip. So am I the jerk for refusing to take sides in this workplace feud? Because right now I'm honestly incredibly frustrated. Okay, honestly, no, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because these people literally go from one person to the next just blaming anybody in their path. And you hit the nail on the head. If they really had witnessed Amy like stealing or rifling through other people's crap, then they should have said something. But instead they sat by idly and just said, oh, I'm just gonna talk about it instead of doing something about it. And also, I love the fact that you're like, look, I can talk to whoever I want. I'm not getting involved in this stupid drama and you can't make me. Because truthfully, that's the way it should be. You should not be forced to get into this stupid, idiotic drama in the slightest. So no, you're not the jerk here, because there's no way I would ever take sides, as this seems incredibly stupid to argue over. Am I the jerk for not spending time with my sister, even though my mom and sister both say that I'm the problem, despite the fact that I haven't done anything? Because right now I'm honestly feeling very frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm 19 years old and I have a twin sister, and we've always gotten along about as well as siblings do. We would fight, make up, and sometimes need our parents to step in, but we were close growing up. The last few years though, she's gotten into serious trouble. When we were 16 years old, she started sneaking out with a 20-year-old guy and his friends. Even though I had nothing to do with it, I got in trouble too, and that happened more than once. Every time she did something wrong, I somehow got pulled into it, and I ended up getting punished as well. Eventually, I told her to stop telling me what she was doing because I didn't want to be involved anymore. Around Christmas that year, one of her friends called my mom and said that my sister had been drinking every night and was really depressed. Not long after that, my parents found out that she had slept with a bunch of people. Things blew up at home after that, and it felt like we were always dealing with some kind of crisis. Now, to be fair, nothing major has happened in the last 6 months. She seems more stable, but now my mom takes her side in everything. No matter what, I'm always the one being told that I'm doing something wrong. Things got worse after she broke up with her long-term boyfriend, who I will call Jay for the sake of the story. She spiraled after that. We found out later that he had been mistreating her, so I get why she was struggling, but she also started lashing out at me a lot more. When they were together, I was always respectful of her time. She would stay over at his house for days, and I never said anything about it. I understood that she loved him and wanted to be with him. Right before they broke up, I started dating my current boyfriend, and at first she was fine with it, but once she was single, she started yelling at me for spending time with him. She tells me I'm selfish and that I never want to be around her anymore. Now, I see my boyfriend about twice a week, sometimes more and sometimes less. I know I've spent less time with her, but I also feel like she's made it unbearable to be be around her. She's always sad or angry, and she takes everything out on me. She acts like I'm her only friend in the world, and I just don't want that role. I know if she had a boyfriend right now, this wouldn't even be an issue. She also has a habit of getting involved in big friend groups, and then somehow they fall apart. She will get close with people, and then drama starts and things explode. Even my mom has admitted this happens. So it's not just me who feels like she can be toxic and emotionally draining. Despite all of this, both my mom and my sister are saying that I'm the one being selfish. They say that I'm a bad sister for pulling away, and that I should be there for her. But I've spent years trying to support her, and I honestly just feel burnt out. I love her, but I don't like being around her anymore. So am I the jerk for wanting space and not hanging around her as often? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. When it comes to family, if they're mistreating you, then guess what? It's time to pull back and try and do something else. You do not have to put up with that for a second. Their disrespect is not justifiable because you have not done anything wrong. So no, you're not the jerk. This is just you setting up healthy boundaries. And if they can't respect that, then that is absolutely their problem and not yours. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.